The Rebirth of 2000, winning over the campus beauty. Chen Fan, who is suffering from a terminal illness, is reborn in 2000 and meets his school beauty deskmate Su Ruochu again. In their previous life, they were in love with each other, but his girlfriend died in a car accident. Chen Fan regrets his whole life. In this life, Chen Fan vows to never let go. Chapter 1, Rebirth in 2000. Mr. Chen, are you sure you want to proceed with the injection? At the third hospital in the capital city, in the VIP intensive care unit, several doctors in white coats surrounded the bed. On the bed, a middle-aged man lay pale, his breathing extremely faint. Upon hearing the doctor's words, Chen Fan struggled to open his eyes. His voice was faint, muffled by the oxygen mask. How long will it take? The experts hesitated for a moment before one spoke up. Generally speaking, if the euthanasia injection is administered, it will take effect quickly, about just a few minutes. Give me 10 more minutes. Chen Fan turned his head to look at his assistant, who stood nearby. Xiao, how did it go with the task I assigned you? The assistant, with red-rimmed eyes, stepped forward and said respectfully, Mr. Chen, everything has been arranged as per your instructions. We have established the Children's Charity Fund with your shares in the company, and your personal assets have all been donated to charity organizations. Also, your ex-wife has been causing a scene lately, constantly threatening to sue you for her share of the assets. Chen Fan's face showed no emotion. How much does she want? 800 billion, plus 10 properties in Beijing? She really dares to ask. A faint trace of mockery flashed across Chen Fan's face. Back when he was just a small businessman, his company faced a major crisis, and his wife, who had promised to stand by him, was the first to betray him. She had conspired with outsiders to stab him in the back, divorced him, and took half of his assets. It almost drove Chen Fan to bankruptcy and left him homeless. That venomous woman. Mr. Chen, don't worry. The company's legal team will handle this. Chen Fan nodded slowly, then closed his eyes with a tired expression. I'm exhausted. After saying that, he struggled to pull out a slightly rusted tin box from under his pillow, holding it solemnly against his chest. Upon seeing this, the assistant's eyes subtly shifted. As Chen Fan's assistant, he was aware of the significance of this box. With Mr. Chen's wealth, he could afford any treasure in the world, but he treasured this box more than anything. Every time the company faced a critical situation, Chen Fan would take out this box and carefully wipe it, as if it contained some priceless treasure. And whenever he finished cleaning the box and came out of his office, he would regain his confidence and lead the company forward, overcoming all obstacles. Now, seeing that Chen Fan was about to die and had donated his billions in assets, the assistant couldn't help but wonder what could possibly be so important in that box. Doctor, I'm ready. Go ahead. Chen Fan closed his eyes and spoke in a calm voice. As the transparent liquid slowly entered his body, Chen Fan felt as though his soul had left his body for a brief moment. He felt incredibly light, and in that moment, he saw the tin box in his arms and smiled nostalgically. Inside the box was not a rare treasure, but rather a simple red string bracelet. A token of love from a girl who once loved him deeply, Su Ruochu. Su Ruochu, his high school classmate. Later, she became his girlfriend. She was gentle as water, with a grace like orchids, a girl who stayed by his side through thick and thin, never leaving him. Chen Fan had promised her that he would give her a grand wedding once he became successful in business. However, fate played a cruel joke on him. One day, when Su Ruochu was buying breakfast for him, she was killed in a car accident. After that, Chen Fan's business grew bigger and bigger, and he was surrounded by all kinds of women. But he only felt more and more lonely. Perhaps, his life had already left with Ruochu. As his consciousness began to fade, Chen Fan struggled to recall Su Ruochu's face. Just as he felt his awareness slipping away, he seemed to see a flash of light. Ruochu. If there's an afterlife, I want to walk beside you, to see the stars and all the wonders of the world. Class, please pay attention to question 6 on the third page of your exam paper. This is a must-know question. It wasn't on the exam last year, but it will definitely be on this year's exam. These 5 points are a free gift. Don't waste them. The sound of rustling papers filled the room. Chen Fan, wake up. A crisp, gentle voice rang in his ears. That voice, it was so familiar. Chen Fan suddenly opened his eyes and saw a beautiful face, with eyes as sparkling as gems and a delicate, elegant expression. Su Ruochu. Chen Fan jumped up in shock, sitting upright. I'm not dreaming, am I? He excitedly reached out and pinched her delicate face. What are you doing? Su Ruochu's face immediately flushed red, and she quickly pushed Chen Fan away, nervously glancing at the front of the class. It's really you. Chen Fan couldn't hold back his excitement and looked around the classroom. He saw a row of familiar, youthful faces, the desks, the thick textbooks and exam papers. The spinning fan on the ceiling, the stifling air, and the sunlight shining through the windows with the sounds of cicadas outside. On the right side of the blackboard, a small line of text read, 36 days until the 2000 college entrance exam. Chen Fan opened his mouth in a daze. 2000 college entrance exam. Does that mean I've been reborn back to my senior year? Did God really hear my prayer? Chen Fan, filled with excitement, grabbed Su Ruochu by the shoulders and hugged her tightly. Great! I finally found you again. Ruochu, this time I will never let you go. He then pressed his lips to her smiling face, kissing her passionately. R. Su Ruochu screamed in shock. The entire class was in an uproar. What the hell? Chen Fan has gone crazy, he kissed the class monitor. Did this guy just wake up from a nap or something? Chen Fan. Bang. Their teacher, Wang Chiming, who had been enthusiastically lecturing at the podium, could no longer hold back and shouted angrily. What are you doing? Under the gaze of the entire class, Su Ruochu's face instantly turned crimson. She angrily pushed Chen Fan away, her face flushed as she laid her head on the desk. Chen Fan looked at the teacher, still excited. Mr. Wang, you're still alive. Wang Chiming. Har har. The class erupted in laughter. You, get out of here. Wang Chiming yelled, his face red with anger. Chen Fan scratched his head, embarrassed, and stood up. Before leaving, he whispered to Su Ruochu. Darling, don't leave after school. I'll walk you home. As the class laughed, Chen Fan walked out of the classroom and into the hallway. But now that he had been reborn, he wouldn't stand there like a fool to be punished. Instead, he quickly ran downstairs to the school's small shop. Boss, 1 pack of pads, with wings. Go away, which class is causing trouble here? The shopkeeper waved her hand. Chen Fan hurriedly said, I'm from class 7 of senior 3. Our teacher asked me to buy this. Hearing this, the shopkeeper pulled out a pack of sanitary pads and tossed it onto the counter. 3.50. Chen Fan took out his change and paid, then grabbed the pads and ran off. Thanks, boss. The shopkeeper watched Chen Fan's retreating figure and muttered to herself. Class 7 of senior 3. I remember the teacher's name is Wang Chiming, right? What's a grown man doing buying this? Chapter 2, In this life, I will never let go again. Chen Fan walked through the campus, his face filled with excitement as he looked around. The familiar buildings, the familiar grass and trees, the sounds of cicadas and students reading aloud, it all felt so comforting. At this moment, he couldn't hold back any longer and laughed out loud. Har har, it's great. I'm back, just like Huan-san. Hey, you. What class are you in? A teacher's shout from the distance startled Chen Fan, who quickly shrank his neck and hurried towards the classroom. By the time he returned, the class had ended. Seeing that his homeroom teacher, Wang Chiming, had already left, Chen Fan straightened his back and walked into the classroom confidently. Oh. As soon as he entered, the students burst into laughter and playful teasing. Chen Fan wasn't embarrassed. Instead, he smiled and made his way back to his seat. Fanji, you're amazing. You actually kissed our class monitor in class. As soon as he sat down, his friend Guo Shuai eagerly leaned in. Tell me, what's going on? Did you watch too many adult comics last night? Get lost. I never watched that kind of stuff. Looking at Guo Shuai, Chen Fan's eyes filled with nostalgia. In his past life, Guo Shuai had been his best friend in this class. The guy came from a decent family, had a good character, and they were great together. Unfortunately, during the college entrance exams, Guo Shuai didn't get into a university and later went to a vocational school. Chen Fan later heard that during a winter break, Guo Shuai got into a fight at school and accidentally crippled the other person. As a result, Guo Shuai ended up in prison, and they lost contact after that. Guo Shuai, who was a little creeped out by Chen Fan's stare, raised his hands to protect his chest. Fanji, can you stop looking at me like that? I'm a pure man. If you really can't hold it in, should I tear a couple more pages from the remaining half of that adult comic for you? Chen Fan was so touched he nearly cried. He was willing to tear more pages from the last half of it for his bro. That's what a true friend is. Keep it for yourself and study it well. Chen Fan patted Guo Shuai on the shoulder. Bro, don't worry. This life, I'll make sure you never make the same mistake again. Guo Shuai looked confused. What do you mean? But soon, he excitedly asked, wait, did you really fall for our class monitor? I remember you liked Lin Yue from the next class before. Guo Shuai scratched his head in confusion. Why is Su Ruochu so attractive? She's thin and flat-chested. Lin Yue is better big chest, small waist, round hips, pretty, and knows how to dress up. That body. When did you go blind? Chen Fan responded in the tone of an experienced person, you're still young and don't understand, I won't blame you, bro. Guo Shuai was speechless. That's not what you said a few days ago, that you like girls with big butts. Just as they were talking, Su Ruochu walked into the classroom. Quick, get off Su Ruochu's seat. Without hesitation, Chen Fan kicked Guo Shuai away. As Su Ruochu walked past and saw Chen Fan, her face immediately turned red. She lowered her head and hurried to her seat, too shy to look at Chen Fan. Chen Fan, on the other hand, couldn't help but stare at her with a slight smile on his face, as if he couldn't get enough of looking at her. At this moment, Su Ruochu looked a bit skinny, appearing delicate and youthful, still showing signs of being in her student years, not yet fully developed. But to Chen Fan, Su Ruochu was so beautiful. How could he not have noticed before in his previous life? He remembered that in his past life, although he and Su Ruochu were desk partners, he was never interested in this serious and strict class monitor. Later, they both went to the same city for college. Su Ruochu went to a top university while he went to a second tier 1. In their second year, during a school reunion, they ran into each other again. After a year of growth, Su Ruochu had fully matured, and her charm had changed dramatically. Chen Fan was stunned and immediately began to pursue her. They eventually became a couple, and their relationship lasted 4.5 years until Su Ruochu tragically passed away. That was the happiest time of Chen Fan's life, and it was a memory he could never forget. Looking at Su Ruochu's shy face, Chen Fan felt regret and guilt. Why hadn't he pursued her sooner in his past life? He had wasted such a good opportunity. But now, things were different. He was reborn. He and Su Ruochu were desk partners again. His wife was back. All the future suitors for Su Ruochu, back off. As Chen Fan thought about these things, he couldn't help but smile foolishly. Seeing Chen Fan grinning at her with such a silly expression, Su Ruochu subtly moved away from him. The bell rang for class to start. The math teacher walked into the classroom, and the noisy room immediately quieted down. Class, take out the test papers we handed out yesterday. Today we'll go over them. Chen Fan wasn't paying attention to the lesson. He secretly wrote a note and slipped it in front of Su Ruochu. Su Ruochu hesitated for a moment but still opened it to read. Are you angry? Su Ruochu picked up a pen and wrote something on the note before slipping it back to Chen Fan. Chen Fan eagerly opened it. Please don't make such boring jokes again. Otherwise, I will never talk to you again. Chen Fan quickly wrote back. Sorry, I won't do it again without your permission. If you're still mad, how about you kiss me back? Su Ruochu looked at the note, expressionless, crumpled it up, and stuffed it into her pocket. It was over. His wife was really mad. Chen Fan hurriedly wrote another note. I was joking. You're not really mad, right? I won't do it again. Su Ruochu glanced at the note but crumpled it up again without replying. Chen Fan wasn't about to give up. He wrote more. I had a dream where I missed the chance with a great girl and regretted it for life. In this life, I will never let go again. This time, Su Ruochu stared at the note for a while. In the end, she didn't crumple it up but slipped it under her book. She still wasn't responding to him. Was she really mad? Just as Chen Fan was feeling anxious, Su Ruochu suddenly whispered. Pay attention in class. Chen Fan immediately beamed, straightened up, and sat properly. Okay, as you command. The bell rang for school to end in the afternoon. The students packed their bags and began to leave in a noisy bustle. Su Ruochu stayed in her seat, seeming a little nervous and unsure. Chen Fan, as if prepared, quietly took the package of sanitary napkins hidden in his desk drawer and passed it to her without a trace. "What's this?" Su Ruochu opened the plastic bag, confused. When she saw the contents, her face immediately turned bright red. "You? Sure." Chen Fan made a shushing motion, quickly removed his school jacket, and tied it around her slender waist. "Go quickly. No one will notice." Su Ruochu blushed, glanced at him, hesitated for a second, and then quickly stood up, clutching the sanitary napkins and running out of the classroom. Watching her slim figure and swaying ponytail, Chen Fan couldn't help but stretch and sigh. "My wife just keeps getting prettier and prettier. She's just too skinny. Look at her, her chest is practically non-existent. When I make money, I'm definitely going to buy her a lot of good food to fatten her up." "Chen Fan." A voice interrupted Chen Fan's thoughts. At the door stood a tall boy, glaring at him. It was class monitor Wang Hu. "Yo! What's up, class monitor? Come out here." Chen Fan slung his bag over his shoulder and walked out of the classroom. "Class monitor, what's the matter?" Wang Hu frowned, clearly displeased by Chen Fan's casual attitude. "Chen Fan, did you kiss Su Ruochu in class today?" Chen Fan paused for a moment. "So what? What's it to you?" Wang Hu snorted. "I warn you, stay away from Su Ruochu from now on. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude." Chapter 3, I have to go to the same university as Su Ruochu. Chen Fan looked at Wang Hu in front of him with some surprise. Why didn't he notice in his past life that this guy had a secret crush on Su Ruochu? Chen Fan had never had a good impression of Wang Hu in his past life. He was narcissistic, loved to show off, and often used his position as class monitor to report on others. At a class reunion after graduation, what Chen Fan remembered most clearly was that Wang Hu had arrived in a BMW. At that reunion, Wang Hu was the center of attention, constantly bragging about his girlfriend, who had a family member working in the government. He subtly boasted about his own achievement of passing the city-level civil servant exam. Although he had only become a minor official, in Wang Hu's words, it sounded like he had become an important figure. However, Wang Hu did indeed do well afterward. Relying on his girlfriend's family background, he quickly became a powerful leader in a government department. But his good luck didn't last long. This guy later got caught up in corruption and was exposed by his mistress, resulting in his downfall. Returning to the present, Chen Fan looked at the guy in front of him, who liked to tilt his head and glance sideways while speaking. Chen Fan said calmly, "This doesn't seem to be your business, right? I'm the class monitor, so I have the right to inquire about anything related to the class. Your behavior is seriously affecting Su Ruochu's studies." Wang Hu snorted coldly, "You don't want to attend a good university, but don't delay Su Ruochu." Chen Fan smiled. "Class monitor, are you secretly in love with Su Ruochu?" When his secret feelings were exposed, Wang Hu's face immediately showed an awkward expression. But soon, he straightened his neck and coldly snorted, "So what if I do? You'd better stay away from her. Someone like you doesn't deserve her." Chen Fan shrugged. "Whether I deserve her or not isn't for you to decide. Maybe Ruochu likes guys like me." As he said this, Chen Fan patted Wang Hu's shoulder. "By the way, I also have some advice for you. Focus on your studies and stay away from my girlfriend in the future. Otherwise, don't blame me for beating you up." "You?" Wang Hu's face turned pale, and he grabbed Chen Fan's collar. "What are you two doing?" A voice suddenly came from the corridor. It was Su Ruochu. Wang Hu quickly let go of Chen Fan and stepped back. He glanced at Su Ruochu, then pointed at Chen Fan. "You'll regret this." With that, he quickly walked downstairs and left. "I'll be waiting for you," Chen Fan waved with a smile, not taking it seriously. Su Ruochu walked over quickly and seemed a little embarrassed when she saw Chen Fan. "Were you two fighting just now?" "Huh? No, Chen Fan quickly waved his hand. "Then why was Wang Hu looking for you?" "Oh, he asked me if I had any adult films, saying he was tired from studying and wanted to relax." Chen Fan spoke with a serious expression. "That's ridiculous. How could someone as pure as me watch that kind of thing? Of course, I refused him with a righteous stance. Without hesitation, he threw Wang Hu under the bus. It was important to eliminate all potential suitors at any time. Su Ruochu glanced at Chen Fan but didn't he expose him. She turned and walked into the classroom. After a while, she came out with her backpack. When she saw Chen Fan still standing at the door, Su Ruochu seemed a little nervous. Why haven't you left? I'll walk you back. Su Ruochu stopped in her tracks. No need. Chen Fan quickly explained, I don't mean anything else, I just. No, Su Ruochu rejected him firmly. Chen Fan had no choice but to compromise. Then can we at least walk to the school gate together? Su Ruochu didn't speak and turned to walk downstairs. Chen Fan smiled and quickly followed. When they walked out of the teaching building and saw that no other students were around, Su Ruochu spoke softly. Thank you. Your clothes. Chen Fan smiled. It's okay. Just give it to me next time. Su Ruochu lowered her head, her face flushed red, clearly a bit embarrassed. But it seemed that she had gathered a lot of courage, as she raised her head and looked at Chen Fan. How did you know? What? When Su Ruochu stared at him, Chen Fan immediately realized. Oh, you mean about your period? As soon as those words were spoken, Su Ruochu glared fiercely at Chen Fan, her face burning with embarrassment. She wished she could find a hole to hide in. But Chen Fan laughed and teased, I'm your deskmate. I have great intuition. Nothing escapes my eyes. Actually, he wanted to say, what's the big deal? I not only know your period dates, but I also know your height, weight, measurements, and cup size after you get into university. In his past life, it was probably around this time, with only a month left before the college entrance exam. Maybe due to the stress of studying, Su Ruochu's period came early. Since she wasn't prepared, it caused her school uniform pants to get stained, creating a big embarrassment in class. It seemed like the person laughing the hardest back then was himself. Remembering this, Chen Fan couldn't help but laugh. What are you laughing at? Su Ruochu suddenly asked. Chen Fan was startled and quickly waved his hand. Nothing. I wasn't laughing at you. Su Ruochu stopped walking. We left the school gate. Seeing Chen Fan still trying to follow her, Su Ruochu frowned. Don't follow me anymore. Chen Fan scratched his head. Actually, my home is that way too. Liar. Su Ruochu didn't hold back and exposed Chen Fan's lie. Chen Fan, I'm pretending nothing happened in class today. I hope there won't be a next time. Otherwise, I'll ask the teacher to change my seat. Hey, don't. Chen Fan hurriedly raised his hand in surrender. I promise there won't be a next time. Su Ruochu gave him a deep look before turning and leaving. Looking at her back, Chen Fan sighed with some reluctance. It seemed that during high school, he hadn't left a good impression on his future wife. She didn't even give him a chance to get closer. At that moment, Wu Shuai suddenly popped up from behind. Still watching? She's already far away. Chen Fan shot him a glance and said irritably, why haven't you left yet? If I left, how would I see this drama? Wu Shuai looked at Chen Fan with an amused expression. Are you serious? You really like Su Ruochu? Chen Fan, what's serious or not? Let me tell you, in this life, Su Ruochu must be my wife. Damn. You're even more shameless than me. Wu Shuai cursed, then continued, but if you want to chase her, it won't be that easy. Who doesn't know that the study monitor is the class's well-known ice-cold goddess? She's always so serious, showing no interest in anything other than studying. If you want to pursue her, it'll be as difficult as climbing to the sky. Chen Fan glared. I warn you, stop talking bad about my wife. She's a good kid who loves to study. She's nothing like someone like you. Phut, as if you're not a slacker. Wu Shuai grinned. I bet you can't chase Su Ruochu. If you can, Wu Shuai, will do a handstand and eat shit. Stop pretending to get free meals. Chen Fan hopped on his bike. Let us go. Wu Shuai followed behind, still teasing. Actually, even if you catch up with her, it won't matter. There's only 1 month left of high school life. Even if you catch up with her, what can you do? After she gets into a prestigious university, there'll be tons of excellent guys. What will you, Chen Fan, have to do with her then? These words suddenly reminded Chen Fan. Right, in his past life, he barely made it into a second-tier university, while Su Ruochu had gone to a 985 university. If not for his good luck, he probably wouldn't have had any chance at all. Chen Fan suddenly snapped out of it, made a firm decision, and shouted loudly. I've made up my mind. I'm going to 985. I'll go to the same university as Su Ruochu. Wu Shuai seemed to have heard the funniest joke ever. He couldn't even keep his balance on the bike, swerving all over the road. Brother Fan, if you can get into 985, Wu Shuai, will not only do a handstand and eat shit, but I'll also add 3 more pounds. Damn. Chen Fan couldn't be bothered to joke with him anymore. His gaze was fixed firmly ahead. In his heart, he silently made up his mind. This time, he must go to the same university as Ruochu. Chapter 4 Advantages of a Time Traveler. After saying goodbye to Wu Shuai at the intersection, Chen Fan rode his bike home alone. Chen Fan's home is in a nearby town. It's quite far from the school, and it's a small bungalow built by the village. Pushing open the mottled black gate, the first thing that comes into view is the familiar small yard. The yard is not big, but it is very clean. Chen Fan's parents are both hardworking people. They have specially opened a small vegetable garden in the yard, which is full of vegetables such as eggplants, tomatoes, beans, etc. After parking the bicycle, Chen Fan stepped into their house. Mom and Dad, I'm back. Xiao Fan is back, wash your hands and prepare for dinner. In the kitchen on one side, Chen Fan's mother Li Jinqiu poked her head out and greeted him. Looking at this familiar face, Chen Fan's eyes reddened and he almost cried on the spot. Chen Fan's parents are both ordinary workers. His father Chen Jianye works in a ceramic factory, and his mother Li Jinqiu works in a power plant. Maybe it was because of work, Chen Fan's father in his previous life died of a serious illness in his 50s. And his mother died 3 years after his father passed away because of missing him. The two elders hardly enjoyed any of their son's blessings. Chen Fan couldn't control his emotions and rushed to hug his mother from behind. Mom, I miss you. What's wrong with this child again? Li Jinqiu smiled and patted Chen Fan's hand. Let go, Mom is cooking, be careful of hot oil splashing on you. Hurry up and wash your hands, this dish will be ready soon. Okay. Chen Fan turned his head, secretly wiped a tear, went outside the door and washed his face vigorously with cold water, taking the opportunity to wash away the tears. Mom, where's my dad? He's working overtime at the factory tonight, he should be back soon. Mom's voice came from the kitchen, and Chen Fan looked at the house with a face full of nostalgia. In fact, this old house is not big, with an actual area of only about 70 square meters. 2 bedrooms and 1 living room, 1 room for parents and 1 for Chen Fan himself. In the middle of the living room is an old-fashioned cupboard made of red lacquer. On the cupboard is a 21-inch heavy old color TV. It is almost the only valuable item in this house. There is no sofa, only a few wooden chairs with peeling paint. In the middle of the living room is a square low wooden table. On the wooden table is a large cracked tile, which was brought back by Chen Fan's father from the factory. This is the dining table. Chen Fan walked into his bedroom and looked at this small room of less than 10 square meters. Everything was so familiar and nostalgic. There was a single bed and a wardrobe in the bedroom, and a desk was placed by the window on the right. There was a piece of transparent glass on the desk, which was filled with photos. Except for a few family photos, the rest were all photos of Chen Fan from childhood to adulthood. There is also the only standing electric fan in the house in the corner. There is nothing else. It is such a simple little house, but Chen Fan has slept here for more than 10 years. At night, Chen Fan's father came home from get off work, and the family sat together to eat. Hearing his parents talking about the success of someone's child, Chen Fan couldn't help but speak. Dad, Mom, I plan to get into a first-tier university this year to make you 2 old people happy. Chen Jianye glanced at his son and said slowly. Get into a first-tier university. I will be very happy if you can get into a second-tier university. Li Jinqiu smiled and comforted. Xiao Fan, don't have too much pressure, your parents don't have such high requirements for you, just do your best in the college entrance examination. Whether you can pass or not, your parents will not blame you. Chen Fan looked discouraged. It seems that his parents have no confidence in him at all. Dad, how much money do we have left? Why are you asking this? Just asking. Chen Jianye took a sip of wine. Ask your mom about this. I don't know. Li Jinqiu thought for a while and said, it seems that there are more than 20,000 yuan in total, 27,000 yuan. My parents' factory has been in recession in the past 2 years, and your dad's factory still owes him 2 months' salary. Chen Fan decisively suggested, Dad, let's sell our old house, and then add the 27,000 yuan to buy a building in the city. Chen Fan remembered that the housing price in Los Angeles in 2000 was only more than 900 yuan per square meter. It costs less than 100,000 yuan to buy a 100 square meter building. Pay more than 20,000 yuan for a down payment, live in it for a few years and sell it, and it is not a problem to make more than 10 times the profit. Is there any more cost-effective investment than this? Chen Fan was happily planning. But his parents looked at each other with a worried look on their faces. This kid, has he become stupid from studying? Buying a house? Do you know how much a house costs now? It's ridiculously expensive. The deputy director of our factory spent more than 100,000 yuan to buy that house, but he sold it after living in it for less than 2 years. Chen Fan immediately became interested. Why sell it? Why? Chen Jianye put down his wine glass and glanced at his son. Of course, the house price is too expensive. People sell their houses while the house price is high now, rent a house, and then buy it back at a low price when the house price drops in the future, saving tens of thousands of yuan. This is a truly smart person, otherwise he can be a deputy director. Chen Fan. Our family saves this money for you to find a job and get married after graduation. Why buy a house when you can? You must be kicked in the head by a donkey to buy a house at this time. Lying in bed at night, Chen Fan tossed and turned and couldn't sleep. It seems that I have to give up on asking my parents to buy a house for the time being. After my rebirth, I must start a business and make money. In my previous life, Chen Fan always felt that he owed Su Ruochu. So he must make up for her in this life. I want to rebuild a new business empire and let Su Ruochu accompany me to witness and enjoy it all. Since the path my parents took is not feasible, I can only rely on myself. Chen Fan lay on the bed thinking about how to start a business and get the first pot of gold. To be honest, as a reborn person, his only advantage is his ability to foresee the future. In fact, this is enough. As a time traveler who knows the development trend of the next 20 years, Chen Fan clearly knows every policy, the country's development plan, the promotion of leaders, the wave of entrepreneurship. In fact, as a reborn person, if you want to make money quickly, it's nothing more than those few things. Buy a building, buy a mine, buy stocks. Chen Fan remembers that in 2000, houses in Puxi and Shenzhen town were only more than 4,000 per square meter. It is definitely the best time to invest in stocks of Mauzi, Penguin, Baidu, and Taobao. Any one of these, as long as Chen Fan arranges and enters the market in advance, he will make a lot of money in the future. Of course, there is a better choice in the future. That is to buy Bitcoin. Chen Fan remembers that this thing seems to have been born in 2009. When it was first released, it was less than 1 cent, which means that you can buy more than 1,000 bitcoins for 6 or 7 yuan. In 2021, the value of Bitcoin reached a peak of nearly $70,000 per Bitcoin. If you arrange in advance, you can stock up on millions of Bitcoins. Calculate the time and sell them at the peak in 2021. At that time, your wealth will really be just a string of countless numbers. However, these things, whether buying a house, a mine or stocks, require a large amount of original funds. And now you only have a dozen yuan of pocket money on your body. Alas, I can see but not touch. It's painful. It seems that I still have to find a way to get the first startup capital. Chen Fan shook his head and sighed, not thinking about it for the time being. Let's put the first pot of gold aside for now. There are more important things for him now. That is, the college entrance examination is coming soon, and he must be admitted to the same university as Su Ruochu. In memory, the college entrance examination questions this year were particularly difficult. Especially mathematics, physics, and chemistry, which were simply hellish, causing many students to wail after leaving the examination room. And the score line this year was not high. The first tier line was only 535 points, and the admission line of Yunhai University seemed to be 553 points. And Su Ruochu was admitted to Yunhai University in his previous life. In the dark, Chen Fan lay on the bed with a burning look in his eyes. 553, must get it. Chapter 5. Your name is Chen Fan. The next morning, Chen Fan came to school full of fighting spirit. As soon as I entered the classroom, I saw Su Ruochu sitting in her seat. Good morning, student counselor. Chen Fan greeted her with a smile, but Su Ruochu blushed and quickly lowered her head. Alas, my wife is good in every way except her personality. She is so shy. Moreover, even when the two had confirmed their relationship in their previous life, Su Ruochu was still a very shy and traditional girl. Chen Fan remembered the first time he finally managed to kidnap Su Ruochu to their hotel, but he ended up saying something new. The consequence was that he was kicked off the bed by the other party. As a result, my wife didn't let me touch her the whole night. Comrades, these are all bloody lessons. Chen Fan secretly warned himself in his heart. We must learn from our mistakes and keep working hard. Picking up girls is a laborious job, so don't be impatient. At this time, Su Ruochu quietly handed over a shopping bag. What's this? Chen Fan opened it and took a look, and found that it was his school uniform. When he took it out and took a look, Chen Fan was immediately happy. You also helped me wash it. He put it on quickly and then sniffed it hard. It smells so good. What brand of laundry detergent do you use? My wife, my deskmate, is very clever and skillful. Su Ruochu turned her head away with a red face. If you keep talking nonsense, I'll ask the teacher to change seats. No, no. Chen Fan quickly surrendered. I promise I won't tell you anymore. For the next morning, Su Ruochu discovered that Chen Fan actually did not harass her anymore. This guy always holds the textbook and flips through it, whether in class or during breaks, and occasionally writes and draws with a pen. He didn't even listen to the teacher's lecture and was always immersed in his own world. Su Ruochu took a curious look and found that the other party was marking some knowledge points. What is he doing? Su Ruochu was a little confused. Do you want to start working hard from now on? Isn't it too late? Finally, when he peeked for the third time, Chen Fan suddenly looked up and grinned at Su Ruochu. Su Ruochu suddenly became like a frightened little white rabbit. He quickly looked away, his heart pounding. Chen Fan smiled and did not disturb the other party. Instead, he lowered his head and continued to flip through the book. To be honest, he had no system and no cheat codes when he was reborn. The only advantage is that I have taken the college entrance examination once. He had done all the college entrance examination questions. Although many years have passed, most of the questions are almost forgotten. But Chen Fan was deeply impressed by some key questions. After all, these questions gave him a lot of trouble back then, and he couldn't answer many of them during the exam. For example, Chen Fan clearly remembered that the last 6 analytical questions in mathematics accounted for 70 points. He knew what the last 3 analysis questions were that made countless candidates scratch their heads and cry in pain. He knows which article is the Chinese reading comprehension section in this year's college entrance examination. He knew that this year's college entrance examination essay topic was to discuss the perspectives on looking at problems in life and the different answers to solving problems through different understandings of 4 graphic symbols. He knows this year's English reading comprehension and composition topics, and he also knows science. With these, plus my current level of knowledge, I definitely have a chance to get 553 points if I try. After school at noon, my best friend Guo Shuai came over. Brother Fan, let's go out for dinner. Chen Fan shook his head. You go, I'll eat in the cafeteria. What's good in the cafeteria? I'll treat you to a nice meal outside. Chen Fan stood up decisively. Walk. Fuck. Does it have to be so real? Chen Fan smiled and said, You are a big dog owner, who else should I kill if not you? Guo Shuai was not angry either. He hugged Chen Fan's neck with a smile. Don't worry, I can afford to treat you to meals until the college entrance examination. Chen Fan was touched. You are worthy of being my good brother. Can you lend me 20,000 yuan directly? Fuck. Just sell me for money. The two walked out of the classroom chatting and laughing. The senior year of high school is about to take the college entrance examination, and the school's inspections have obviously been relaxed a lot. When you leave the school, as long as you wear your student ID, the teachers will generally turn a blind eye and let you go. The restaurant opposite the school gate is very popular. If you go late, you may not be able to get in line. Chen Fan and Wu Shuai held their plates and looked at the room full of students with depressed faces. Why don't we just pack it up and eat it in the classroom? Chen Fan suggested. No. Look at that. Wu Shuai excitedly pulled Chen Fan through the crowd, and Chen Fan saw Su Ruochu who was eating from a distance. Wu Shuai came over with a smile. Two beauties, what a coincidence, can we share a table? Su Ruochu was having dinner with a girl named Li Na, with whom she had a good relationship. When she looked up and saw Chen Fan, her expression was obviously a little embarrassed. Li Na asked with a smile, "Didn't you find a seat? Sit with us." After saying that, he stood up, picked up the plate and sat with Su Ruochu. Thank you, thank you. Wu Shuai quickly pulled Chen Fan to sit down. Chen Fan was eating quietly while Li Na was secretly watching him. Chen Fan couldn't help it and looked up. Is there dirt on my face? He. No. Li Na stared at Chen Fan with a smile. Chen Fan, why did you kiss Su Ruochu yesterday? As soon as these words came out, Wu Shuai, who was eating, spat out the rice on the spot. Su Ruochu's face turned red and she quickly pushed her friend. Chen Fan didn't blush or feel nervous. This is actually a misunderstanding. I was having a nightmare at the time and was getting married. This sentence made Li Na laugh. So you think of our student council member as your wife? Chen Fan secretly glanced at Su Ruochu and quickly shook his head. You said that, I didn't. Li Na continued to ask, then let me ask you, do you like Su Ruochu? Yes. Chen Fan nodded in agreement without hesitation. This sentence made Li Na stunned, and Su Ruochu beside her stood up with a red face. I'm done eating. I'm going back now. Hey, Ruochu, don't go, I haven't finished asking questions yet. Li Na shouted anxiously twice, then got up and chased after him. Before leaving, he did not forget to joke with Chen Fan, "A can of chocolate candy, I can tell you a secret of Su Ruochu. Remember, it has to be chocolate." Watching Li Na chasing after him with a smile, Chen Fan shook his head. Do I need you to tell me my wife's secret? Seeing Wu Shuai still staring outside with burning eyes, Chen Fan couldn't help but knock on the table. What are you looking at? Wu Shuai smiled embarrassedly. Brother Fan, what do you think of Li Na's appearance? Chen Fan was stunned. Do you like Li Na? I didn't notice. Why don't I remember that Wu Shuai pursued Li Na in my previous life? Wu Shuai on the opposite side smiled a little embarrassedly. Although Li Na's appearance is not particularly beautiful, don't you think she looks good when she smiles? Especially when she smiles, she looks exactly like my ex-girlfriend. Chen Fan was surprised. You still have an ex-girlfriend? Of course. My ex-girlfriend is Li Bingbing. Depend on. I just asked this question redundantly. Chen Fan lowered his head and continued to eat. You haven't told me how Li Na is doing yet. Yeah, that's good. I support you in pursuing her. Chen Fan said vaguely while eating. Wu Shuai was in a very good mood. Just because of what you said, I'll treat you to dinner today. Chen Fan raised his hand immediately. Madam Boss, 2 more chicken legs. After lunch, Wu Shuai ran to the kitchen to use the bathroom. Chen Fan was standing alone on the side of the road waiting, still trying hard to recall the contents of the college entrance examination questions in his mind. At this time, several young men pushed open the glass door of the restaurant and rushed in. Who knows Chen Fan from class 7 of senior grade 3? Who's looking for me? Chen Fan shouted in confusion. The young men immediately turned around and walked out. One of them with an afro stared at Chen Fan and sneered. Your name is Chen Fan. Chapter 6 Setting Sail, starting from the internet. Chen Fan looked at this group of young people who were dressed like non-mainstream people. I immediately realized that the other party had ill intentions. What's up? Fuck, I'm asking if your name is Chen Fan. Chen Fan pretended to be confused. What do you want to do with him? The chicken coop head spat a mouthful of thick phlegm onto the ground. My little brother is Wang Hu, you know that. Did you threaten him? Chen Fan shook his head decisively. I'm not. I don't. It's not me. At this moment, a younger brother next to him suddenly pointed. Brother Crow, this is the grandson. Wang Hu showed me his photo. Upon hearing this, Jiwo Hare suddenly laughed. Boy, you're quite cunning. But no matter how cunning a hunter is, he can't beat a good fox. The younger brother next to him couldn't help but remind him, Brother Crow, you said it the other way around. The guy with the chicken coop hair raised his hand and slapped him. Stop talking nonsense. Then he stretched out his hand to threaten Chen Fan. Wang Hu is my little brother. I'm the one protecting this area. Do you know that? Chen Fan quickly asked, You are? I am a crow. Brother Crow, you still have to protect me, and I recognize you as the boss. Upon hearing this, Crow was visibly stunned. Just as he was about to sneer, he saw Chen Fan's expression suddenly become happy and he waved behind everyone. Teacher Wang, you are coming to eat too. The group of young men were startled and turned around quickly. As a result, Wuxuai came with a bucket of slop and poured it directly on Brother Crow's head. Chen Fan went up and kicked the man, knocking him over. Grass. Just as Brother Crow was about to speak, Chen Fan and Wuxuai had already run into the alley. What the hell are you still standing there for? Chase after me. Brother Crow got up angrily, with a pile of rotten vegetable leaves on his head, and the smelly vegetable juice kept flowing down his hair. Chen Fan and Wuxuai ran through several alleys before stopping, panting. I can't run anymore. Rest, take a rest. Wuxuai held his stomach and gasped. I say, who are these people? Chen Fan turned his head to take a look and snorted coldly. Who else could it be? Wang Hu sent someone to teach me a lesson. Yellow Tiger. Wuxuai sneered, it's probably because of the student committee. Chen Fan was stunned, you know he likes Su Ruochu. Wuxuai smiled. Only a fool can't see that. Wang Hu, this idiot, thought he was disguising himself well. I can tell at a glance that every time he looks at the student council, he has bad intentions. Fuck, if he dares to hit on my sister-in-law, I'll kill him. Chen Fan patted Wuxuai on the shoulder. Good brother. That's very nice of you. Okay, let's go back first. Wait. Wuxuai grabbed Chen Fan. Those guys might be guarding the school gate. If we go back now, we will be walking into their trap. Chen Fan frowned, what should I do then? Don't worry, let them guard it first. Let's go play in the birch forest. Birch forest? Chen Fan suddenly reacted. Birch Forest is an internet cafe near the school. When they were in school, he and Wuxuai would often sneak in to play games after school. Chen Fan thought about it and felt that what Wuxuai said made sense, so he nodded. Walk. The two men quietly came out of the alley and made sure that there was no one around. Then they took a long DT and headed straight for the birch forest. As soon as he entered the internet cafe, Wuxuai greeted the girl working there with ease. The beauty turned on two machines and charged them for 2 hours. The girl at the front desk raised her eyes and glanced at the two of them. Please register your ID card. Wuxuai's eyes were not red and his heart was not beating fast. I don't have it with me. I'll give you a temporary card. Chen Fan was speechless. Brother, you are still wearing your school uniform. As a result, the girl at the front desk actually took out 2 pieces of paper with a string of numbers written on them and threw them on the table. Walk. Wuxuai pulled Chen Fan into their hall. As soon as I pulled open the thick door curtain, it was pitch black like an air raid shelter. There was also smoke inside, which was very choking. All kinds of sounds flooded into Chen Fan's ears like waves. Shit. My mind was stolen. The enemy's infantry are coming, where are the tanks? Why didn't they buy the apocalypse tanks? Ultimate, hurry up and use it. Damn, this Yasher is a piece of shit because of you. Wow, Brother Xiaoyao and Zhao Linger are so touching. Listening to their voice coming from his ear, Chen Fan couldn't help but curl up the corners of his mouth slightly. I miss it so much. Students of this era don't have short videos or video websites, and a simple little game can keep them excited for the whole day. Wuxuai pulled Chen Fan to find a seat in the corner. Quick, turn on the machine. Today I'll let you see my red alert unlimited troop explosion technique. Chen Fan sat down with a smile, pressed the power button, and the familiar Windows 98 startup music sounded. You can have fun on your own today. I have other things to do. Wuxuai glared at him, damn it. You come to the internet cafe not to play games, are you here to watch the news broadcast? Stop talking nonsense. I have something important to do. Wu Shuai muttered to himself as he walked over and turned on the red alert. After a while, he started shouting excitedly. In fact, Microsoft had already released the Windows 2000 operating system in February this year, but the internet cafe in the small town where Chen Fan and his friends were located had not yet been updated. Moreover, the first computer version that Chen Fan and his generation were familiar with was the 98 version. Looking at the classic desktop with blue sky, white clouds and green grass, Chen Fan smiled knowingly. I miss it so much. In this era, the first batch of trendsetters have emerged on the domestic internet. Chen Fan remembered that Xinlang.com had been successfully listed on the Nasdaq in April and was the talk of the town. But soon, Wang Yi will be listed at the end of this month, and Sohu will be listed on the 12th of next month at the latest. By then, the three major portals will be in a three-way balance of power and will be unrivaled in the limelight. As for BAT, which became more famous in later generations, Penguin was experiencing an internet winter, and Ma Huateng once wanted to sell QQ for 1 million yuan. Alibaba's Ma Yun is struggling to build his own sales team. As for Baidu, it is slightly better. It just launched its own Chinese search engine last month and began to fully enter the field of Chinese internet technology. Of course, there was another big boss, Xiangzi, who was still selling CD burners in a small store called JD Multimedia in Zhongguancun at that time. It took 3 years for him to completely switch to an online retail model. However, these have nothing to do with Chen Fan, who is still a student. Even though he was a time traveler, at the moment he was not qualified to drink wine and discuss state affairs with the big guys. Clicking the mouse to open the page of Xinlang.com, Chen Fan casually browsed through some current news. The US stock market is turbulent, and the Nasdaq index has been falling. After seeing this news, Chen Fan thought that not many people in China would know about it. Before long, the wave of internet bubble would sweep across the country. By then, a large number of domestic companies will die in this internet winter. Only those companies that are well prepared for the crisis can survive this cold winter and usher in a new boom. However, these are still too far away for Chen Fan at the moment. What he needs is to find an opportunity to make his first pot of gold. Think about where you should start. His eyes inadvertently swept to the top of the page, and a thought suddenly flashed through his mind, making Chen Fan's eyes light up instantly. Domain name, domain name. Yes, I can buy and sell domain names. Chapter 7. The goddess took the initiative to talk to me, she has me in her heart. In his previous life, Chen Fan studied computer technology and was a typical IT guy. Therefore, he studied this specifically when he was in college. In fact, domain name trading is a very profitable business. As long as you can register a good domain name and then sell it for millions or even tens of millions, getting rich overnight is not a fantasy. Chen Fan remembered that JD's domain name was purchased for 30 million yuan. Lei Jun spent more than $3 million on coarse grains. Of course, the most expensive one is the 360 domain name, which was purchased from a foreign website at a cost of more than 100 million yuan. This shows how crazy the buying and selling of domain names is. The two most famous people in the domain name business at that time were Cai Wenxing and Yao Jinbo. The former is the chairman of Meitu Xiuxiu, a well-known investor who owns a large number of rare domain names. Of course, the latter is more well-known because Yao Jinbo is the founder and boss of 59.com. This person has a very sharp vision. He registered a large number of domain names very early on. It is said that he owns the largest number of two-digit domain names in the country, with a total value of over 100 million yuan. Chen Fan rubbed his hands excitedly. This is the benefit of being a prophet. Take action before others can react. Chen Fan stood up and ran to ask the network administrator for paper and pen, then quickly wrote down the domain names of all the well-known websites he could think of. It took me about half an hour to copy down nearly 50 domain names. The next step is to try to register one by one. Because Alibaba Cloud had not yet been launched at that time, the only way to register was to go to a foreign website. But this is not a problem for IT guy Chen Fan. With simple operations, you can easily climb over the wall. Find the registration website, click to log in, and try to register. Hey, has this website been around for so long? Oh, this has also been registered. It's okay, I still have plenty. Chen Fan muttered to himself and tried one after another. Half an hour later. Chen Fan's face was pale and the corners of his mouth kept twitching. Fuck. Do you have to be so cruel? He leaned back in the chair helplessly, looking depressed. All the domain names he could think of had already been registered by someone else. At this moment, Chen Fan felt like he had underestimated all the heroes in the world. When it was time to get off the plane, Wu Shuai slammed the table in frustration. Fuck. I almost won. Turning around, I found Chen Fan sitting next to me with a blank expression, as if he was in a daze. Wu Shuai pushed Chen Fan. What are you thinking about? Do you want to continue for another hour? Continue the egg. Go back. Chen Fan was in a bad mood and stood up to leave. Wu Shuai was reluctant to give up. Let's play for one last hour, okay. You have to let me have some fun. Seeing Chen Fan staring at a certain direction with burning eyes, Wu Shuai looked in the direction he was looking. As a result, I saw a familiar figure sitting in a corner opposite the internet cafe hall playing games. Yellow Tiger. Wu Shuai was a little surprised and looked at Chen Fan. It's this grandson who did this. What do you say? If this was Chen Fan in his previous life, he would probably have just let it go and decided to keep his distance. But the soul of a man in his 40s now resides inside Chen Fan. And Wang Hu's threat to him was nothing. The key point was that he actually had feelings for Su Ruochu. Chen Fan absolutely could not tolerate this. Go back first. This matter has nothing to do with you. Upon hearing this, Wu Shuai laughed. You look down on me, don't you? Being brothers is in our hearts, do you understand? Chen Fan looked at Wu Shuai with admiration. Terrific. Wu Shuai rolled up his sleeves. I'll do it later, don't interfere. Anyway, I am a bad student in the eyes of the teacher. At most, I will be criticized in a notice. I have too many lice and don't feel itchy. Just as Chen Fan was about to speak, he discovered that Wang Hu opposite him also stood up and walked out. Fuck, he got off the plane too. Follow him. The two of them followed quietly all the way. It turned out that Wang Hu did not leave, but went into the bathroom of the internet cafe. Chen Fan winked at Wu Shuai and picked up the trash can at the door. Wu Shuai counted down to 3, reached out and gently pushed open the bathroom door. Sure enough, it was not locked. In the small cubicle that was emitting a foul smell, Wang Hu was standing with his back to the two of them, humming a song while running the toilet. Chen Fan walked up and smashed the trash can in his hand on the guy's head. Fuck, who is looking for death? Wang Hu yelled and was about to raise his hand to grab the trash can, but Wu Shuai stepped forward and kicked him in the butt. This time it took quite a bit of force. Wang Hu fell to the ground with a thud. In front of him was the toilet. The toilet environment in the internet cafe can be imagined. The dirty toilet is full of unflushed yellow and white things. Wang Hu knelt down and pressed his hands directly on it. Wu Shuai wanted to rush up and kick him a few more times, but was dragged out of the bathroom by Chen Fan. Who is it? Who is looking for death? I saw you, don't vomit, you. Wang Hu's crying and shouting could be heard from behind, while Chen Fan and the other man rushed out of the internet cafe and laughed loudly. I've been fed up with this guy for a long time. He's just a bully who thinks he's the principal just because he's a monitor. Chen Fan did not seem to be very excited after taking revenge, but instead urged. Let's go quickly. The next class should be with our old teacher, Mr. Wang. If you go late, you'll be dead. Damn it, I almost forgot, let's go. The two ran all their way and finally rushed into the classroom before the bell for the second class rang. Looking at the head teacher who walked in later, Chen Fan and Wu Shuai looked at each other and smiled. Students, class is about to begin. Wang Chiming looked around and frowned. Where is squad leader Wang Hu? No one responded. Wu Shuai raised his hand. Teacher, could it be that the monitor had diarrhea and fell into the toilet? How about I go look for him? Their whole class burst into laughter. Wu Shuai can't do without you, right? Sit down. Teacher Wang snorted coldly. Attend class. Chen Fan took out his textbook with a smile, turned his head, and found Su Ruochu stealing glances at him, so he quickly grinned. As a result, the class beauty didn't dodge this time. You skipped class. Chen Fan was stunned, and quickly explained in a low voice, I am actually. Su Ruochu frowned. The college entrance examination is coming soon. Chen Fan, don't you take it seriously at all? Don't you want to get into a good university? Even if you don't think about your parents, don't you think about your own future? Chen Fan was a little surprised that Su Ruochu said so much in one breath. He chuckled and scratched his head. Understood. I'll listen to you and never skip class again. Su Ruochu turned her head away. Why should you listen to me? Studying is your own business. Chen Fan, however, had a smile on his face and was extremely excited. The goddess takes the initiative to care about me and she has me in her heart. After school in the afternoon, Su Ruochu came to the carport with his school bag. As a result, he saw Chen Fan guarding here at a glance. Hey, what a coincidence. Let's go together. Su Ruochu frowned. Chen Fan, what do you want to do? I don't mean anything else, I just want to go home with you after school. Su Ruochu pondered for a while and suddenly asked. Today at noon, during lunch, what you said to Li Na was true. Which sentence? Chen Fan was a little confused and didn't react for a while. Su Ruochu's pretty face turned red and she turned her head away. Just you said you liked me. Is it true? Chapter 8, The Promise with the Class Beauty. Chen Fan's eyes suddenly lit up and he nodded repeatedly. Yes. It's absolutely true. I like you. Can you be my girlfriend? Su Ruochu was shocked. She didn't expect Chen Fan to be so direct. For a moment, my heart beat faster and I was at a loss. What nonsense are you talking about? After taking a quick look around and making sure that there were no classmates around, Su Ruochu spoke with a blushing face. Chen Fan, I don't care if you are serious or joking. The college entrance exam is coming soon. I won't fall in love in high school, I hope you understand. Su Ruochu hesitated for a moment and whispered, I don't want to be disturbed by others during these last few days. Understood. Don't worry, I won't disturb you. Chen Fan nodded repeatedly and then changed the subject. Then can I like you secretly? That won't work either. Su Ruochu stomped her feet with a red face. Why do you have to pester me? Don't you have a girl you like? Our school beauty Lin Yue, don't you like girls like her with big breasts and good figures? Oh shit. Who the hell is spreading gossip about me everywhere? Chen Fan quickly raised his hand and swore. God knows. How could I possibly like a girl with big breasts? It's you I like. As soon as the words came out of his mouth, Chen Fan was stunned. Shit, looks like I said the wrong thing. Sure enough, Su Ruochu pushed his bicycle out with an expressionless face. Chen Fan hurried to catch up. Well, I said the wrong thing. Actually, yours isn't small either. Chen Fan. Su Ruochu stopped and glared at Chen Fan angrily. Chen Fan looked embarrassed and smiled awkwardly. He rolled his eyes and quickly changed the subject. Well, you can ask me not to harass you. But you have to agree to one condition. Sure enough, Su Ruochu was fooled. What conditions? Chen Fan suggested with a smile, before the college entrance examination, I will not actively pursue you, but you have to allow me to take you home after school every day. No. Su Ruochu shook her head and said with a red face. That would be misunderstood by others. It turns out that he doesn't hate me, but he is just too shy to do so. Chen Fan smiled and nodded. Okay, I'll change the conditions. I'll write you a note next time, and you can't ignore me. Also, if I encounter a problem I don't know how to solve, you have to help me. This request does not seem to be excessive. Su Ruochu thought about it and nodded in agreement. Chen Fan immediately took advantage of the situation and asked with a smile. Then can I pursue you after the college entrance examination? Su Ruochu frowned. After the college entrance examination, everyone went their separate ways and went to different universities. Is your statement meaningless? What if I get into the same university as you? Su Ruochu's expression froze and she looked a little conflicted, as if she was afraid that what she said would hurt Chen Fan's self-esteem. However, Chen Fan was extremely determined, staring into Su Ruochu's eyes with burning eyes. Su Ruochu, if I can get into the same university as you, can you be my girlfriend? Su Ruochu's little face was flushed and her eyes were a little evasive. You should pass the exam first. After saying that, he quickly got on his bike and ran away. I will definitely pass the exam. Chen Fan stood behind and shouted with a smile. At night, Li Jinqiu secretly opened her son's bedroom door and took a look. I found Chen Fan sitting at the study desk, reading a book seriously. He smiled with relief and quietly walked out. Dad, haven't you noticed that your son has changed a lot during this period? I don't watch TV when I get home at night. I sit in the room and study after dinner. Chen Jianye was sitting on the balcony smoking, and nodded with emotion when he heard this. I noticed. Alas, it's a pity that there is less than a month left until the college entrance examination. Li Jinqiu smiled and comforted him. As long as my son is willing to change, it's never too late. That's true. Chen Jianye sighed. Alas, it's a pity that I don't have the ability to help my son much. I heard that children in cities now drink milk every day, saying it can nourish the brain. That's enough. Children and grandchildren have their own blessings. Don't think too much. Put out the cigarette quickly and go to bed. It's choking. My son is still studying. Chen Jianye quickly put out the cigarette and waved away the smoke. After turning off the lights and lying on the bed, the two were silent for a while, and then Chen Jianye's voice sounded again. Mother, I will buy a box of pure milk for our son tomorrow after get off work. The child is willing to work hard, and we as parents must do our best to protect him. Okay. I'll listen to you. Wu Shuai discovered that Chen Fan had changed recently. He no longer played and laughed with himself. Every day, whether in class or not, he just lay on the table reading books. And his interaction with Su Ruochu was obviously less. Didn't you say you wanted to pursue her? Is this giving up? Wu Shuai secretly told Chen Fan his thoughts. If you don't seize the time now, by the time you get into college, others will have gone to big cities, and you won't have a chance at all. Chen Fan rolled his eyes. The emperor is not anxious, but the eunuch is. You know shit. Wu Shuai suddenly became anxious. I may not be good at studying, but I am far better than you at picking up girls. Today I'll let you see who is the real expert at picking up girls. At noon at the small restaurant outside, when Wu Shuai once again pulled Chen Fan to the table of Su Ruochu and Li Na. Chen Fan immediately understood why this guy was more anxious than himself. It seems like he wants to use me as a shield to secretly get close to Li Na. Aren't there seats next to you? Why are you coming to our table? Li Na pouted and muttered. Wu Shuai chuckled. Eating together with classmates is more delicious. Chen Fan stroked his forehead. This idiot. Actually, Wu Shuai has a question for you. Consult me. Li Na was a little surprised. Wu Shuai put down the tray and sat down next to Li Na. Chen Fan sat next to Su Ruochu. Su Ruochu lowered her head, and although she didn't look at Chen Fan, she moved her body to the side. Wu Shuai, what question do you want to ask me? That. Wu Shuai thought quickly and said, actually, I just want to ask which university you plan to apply to. University. Li Na was stunned and imagined with a frown on her face. I'm not good at studying. If I can pass the exam, I want to go to an art school in the south. That's great. You have such a great figure, so you must look great dancing. Really? Wu Shuai seemed to get the idea instantly. Of course. The dance you performed at the New Year's Eve party last time left the deepest impression on me. Really? Li Na said sweetly, I didn't expect you to have such good taste. Chen Fan stood there dumbfounded. Wu Shuai is good. It turns out that he is really good at it. This is pretty close. Looking at himself, Su Ruochu lowered his head and ate in small bites, with no intention of talking to him. Not only did their relationship not get closer, it seemed to have deteriorated. So shameful. Chen Fan was somewhat shocked. When finishing the meal and leaving, Wu Shuai shouted again. Madam, give me 4 bottles of Coke. The 4 of them drank Coke and walked to school together, and Wu Shuai excitedly suggested. Let's eat together every day at noon. Li Na hadn't realized Wu Shuai's little trick and thought that this guy was creating opportunities for Chen Fan. So he nodded with a smile. That's fine with me. Ruochu, what do you think? Su Ruochu looked up and felt a little embarrassed. Student counselor, you wouldn't be so disgusted with us poor students that you wouldn't want to eat with us, right? Wu Shuai joked with a smile. Su Ruochu quickly explained, no. I didn't say that. Wu Shuai snapped his fingers. Then I'll take that as your agreement. After saying this, he even winked at Chen Fan on purpose. As a result, Chen Fan lowered his head as if thinking about something and did not notice Guo Shuai's hint at all. Guo Shuai was so angry. He reached out and pushed Chen Fan. "What are you thinking about?" What? Chen Fan suddenly raised his head and looked at the three people in front of him with a puzzled look. Then, before the three of them could react, Chen Fan suddenly shouted excitedly. "Yeah, why didn't I think of that? Come on, follow me to the birch forest." "You?" Guo Shuai was dragged away with a confused look on his face. Li Na was left looking at Su Ruochu with curiosity and asked. "Ruochu, you had a fight with Chen Fan. Why did he seem to be ignoring you just now?" Chapter 9 I figured out a way to make money. Did you have a fight with Chen Fan? Faced with his friend's question, Su Ruochu shook his head. No. Then why didn't he talk to you while eating? He seemed to be avoiding you just now. Su Ruochu didn't say anything, but pursed her lips and stared at the figures of Chen Fan and Guo Shuai running away. A thought flashed through my mind. Did my refusal that day hurt his self-esteem? At this moment, Su Ruochu didn't know what he felt. Seeing that Su Ruochu didn't say anything, Li Na hurried over and took her arm. "Hey, tell me the truth, do you like Chen Fan?" Su Ruochu's pretty face suddenly turned red. What are you talking about? When did I like him? He suddenly kissed you during class that day, and you weren't angry. Su Ruochu was a little embarrassed. Didn't I say it was just a dream, not intentional? Really don't like it. Seeing Li Na's determination to get to the bottom of things, Su Ruochu shook her head helplessly. It's not a question of whether I like it or not, but I don't even think about these things before the college entrance examination. That's true. Li Na muttered, the college entrance examination is less than a month away. Even if you two are together, it can only be a twilight romance that ends after graduation. You said Chen Fan is really something. He has been your deskmate for such a long time, but what has he been doing? I'm getting anxious now that I'm about to graduate. But what? Su Ruochu looked over curiously. Li Na giggled and said jokingly. But Chen Fan is actually quite handsome, especially his eyes. He looks really good when he smiles. I just heard that his family conditions are not very good, otherwise I would have wanted to talk to him and try. Su Ruochu stared at her best friend with wide eyes, and suddenly reached out and pinched her arm. What do you think about all day? Of course I miss handsome guys. Don't tell me you haven't secretly thought about it. I don't. I don't believe it. Stop right there, you little bitch. The two girls chased each other all their way to the school. On the other side, as soon as he entered the birch forest, Chen Fan easily got the temporary card and ran to turn on the phone. I say, do we have to play games today? Guo Shuai looked depressed. My buddy finally made some progress with Li Na, and you are openly destroying our relationship. Stop talking nonsense. It will be ready soon. Chen Fan excitedly clicked on a web page, then entered a paragraph of content and started searching. Just now, a light bulb suddenly flashed in his mind. I thought of a way to make money. Yesterday, Chen Fan researched domain names for a long time, only to find that the good domain names he had thought of had already been registered by others. Domain name transactions are temporarily unavailable. But you can try another approach and create a website that specializes in buying and selling domain names. Chen Fan had to thank Boss Yao from 59.com for coming up with this idea. In his previous life, Yao Jinbo held a large number of domain names. In order to facilitate domain name transactions, this guy founded e.com. In just a few months, e.com became the largest domain name trading platform in China. In the same year, e.com was acquired by HiChina, and Yao Jinbo got his first pot of gold in his life. There is no detailed statement on the internet about how much e-network was sold for. Some say it was hundreds of thousands, while others say it was millions. But Chen Fan estimated that it would definitely not be less than 1 million. You have to know that this was 1 million in the year 2000. The reason why Chen Fan came to the birch forest this time was to confirm whether e.com was online. A few minutes later, Chen Fan excitedly punched the table. Great. Sure enough, it's not online yet. Even though e.com has not yet gone online, it has proved that it still has a chance. From now on, he must seize the time and create e-network first, so as to successfully intercept it before Boss Yao can react. Chen Fan remembered that in its previous life, E.com seemed to have been acquired by Hai China in September of this year. That means I have less than 4 months left. The time is tight, but it's worth the fight. Wu Shuai, who was standing by, saw Chen Fan sitting in front of the computer and laughing foolishly, and couldn't help but move over to take a look. I found out that the other party was just looking at an ordinary news page. "Hey," I said, "did you drink your stupid wife's piss? Why are you laughing so happily?" Chen Fan turned his head and smiled. "Really? Are there more? If you open your mouth any wider, I can see your prostate." "Stupid. That's called the thyroid gland. Brother, you need to study biology class carefully." Wu Shuai was not embarrassed and just smiled. "You know me. I get sleepy as soon as I start class. In biology class, I am only interested in the last few sections on human physiology and hygiene. I can't understand the rest." Wu Shuai suddenly thought of something and said angrily, "MD. I feel depressed when I talk about this. Do you know how long I waited for the last 2 lessons on physiological structure? In the end, the biology teacher just let us flip through the pages and preview them by ourselves and then turned over those pages." Chen Fan didn't want to waste time on this guy, he just turned off his phone and stood up. "I'm leaving. Leaving now." Wu Shuai's eyes widened. "It's not even an hour yet, how about letting me play a game of Red Alert? Let's go, the next class is our teacher's class, you dare to skip it." Chen Fan said this as he pulled the guy out. "Let me play one game, just one game. We have paid for it, it would be a shame to waste it." Wu Shuai ultimately failed to play the game and was dragged back to school by Chen Fan. In the afternoon class, Chen Fan was so excited that he didn't even look for the test questions. A person lowered his head and wrote and drew with a pen. For a programmer like him who was reborn from the future, creating a forum or a website is not a difficult task. What Chen Fan was worried about was whether Boss Yao's e-network would go online before his own. If the other party also goes online, a fight will inevitably break out between the 2 websites to grab traffic. If you want to gain the upper hand, you must promote and advertise. That would require a lot of money. And if you want to create a forum, you need a computer with you. You can't go to the internet cafe to work every day, right? Whether I can get on the machine or not is not known. Mostly a waste of time. For Chen Fan now, buying a computer alone would be a pipe dream. Computers in 2000 were not cheap. A laptop costs about 10,000 or 20,000 yuan. The cheapest desktop computer costs more than 5,000 yuan, and the configuration is rubbish. Money, money, money. In the end, it was money that stumped me. Chen Fan frowned and looked at the list on the paper with some depression, his face looking a little ugly. The excitement on my face seemed to have been poured with a bucket of cold water. I felt a chill all over my body in an instant. Alas, a penny can make a hero. Su Ruochu, who was standing by, was distracted for the first time in class. Although she was sitting upright, her mind was full of random thoughts. She was wondering if she had made Chen Fan unhappy. Otherwise, why didn't he take the initiative to chat with me today? Also, this guy has been lying there writing and drawing since the class started, mumbling to himself, and I don't know what he is doing. I wanted to ask a question, but I couldn't save my face. I was struggling like this for most of the day and the get out of class was about to end. Su Ruochu couldn't help it, so he picked up a pen and wrote a line on the notebook. Then he quietly pushed aside and touched Chen Fan with his arm. Chapter 10 I Choose Chen Fan. Chen Fan was feeling depressed when he suddenly saw the notebook in front of him. "What are you doing?" Chen Fan was stunned and looked up quickly. I found that Su Ruochu was staring at the podium with a serious look on his face, but his expression was obviously a little nervous. Is she passing me a note on her own initiative? Chen Fan suddenly became excited. The depression just now was swept away in an instant. My mood immediately brightened up. Ruochu took the initiative to talk to me. Ruochu cares about me. Chen Fan smiled foolishly and quickly wrote a sentence on the notebook and pushed it to the other party. There's a rumor in class recently that I like you. Let me clarify, that's not a rumor. Su Ruochu glanced down and her pretty face suddenly turned red. She glanced at Chen Fan lightly, feeling quite coquettish and helpless. That's the expression. Chen Fan felt as if he was struck by an electric current and suddenly felt a little dizzy. When we were in love in our previous life, whenever I did something that made Su Ruochu speechless, she liked to look at me with this expression. There is a hint of helplessness in her coquettishness and charm, as well as a sense of, I'm too lazy to expose you. Although Su Ruochu's action at this moment was less charming and gentle than in the next few years, it was still charming and cute in a different way. Chen Fan's heart was about to melt. I quickly continued writing with my pen. Okay, answer seriously. I am actually working hard for our future. Su Ruochu rolled her eyes and automatically ignored the guy's nonsense. After thinking about it, I finally wrote another sentence. Pay attention to the lessons, the college entrance exam is coming soon. After seeing this, Chen Fan's mouth curled up slightly. I'll listen to you. You're the only one I'll obey in this life. Su Ruochu seemed to be defeated by Chen Fan. With a blushing face, he put away the notebook, tore off the page and put it in his pocket, not bothering to pay attention to this shameless guy. However, Chen Fan did not get distracted during the remaining time, but listened attentively. This performance made Su Ruochu feel a little indescribable. At least she was happy that Chen Fan listened to her so much. And it happened to my deskmate. There really seems to be some weird change going on these days. Chen Fan had never been so smooth-tongued before, and had never said such disgusting words to me. Is it really because of the upcoming college entrance examination? Su Ruochu attributed all this to the upcoming college entrance examination. As soon as the school bell rang in the afternoon, Wu Shuai from the back row rushed over excitedly. Hey, didn't you say you needed a computer this afternoon? I thought about it and it just so happens that I have one at home. How about you come to my house? Chen Fan shook his head. Forget it. Your father treasures your computer like a treasure and won't even let you touch it. Besides, I can't go to your house every day. What's the big deal? We are brothers. Good brother, in my heart. Forget it. I appreciate your kindness. I'll think of another way. Su Ruochu next to him glanced at Chen Fan, silently put on his school bag, and walked out of the classroom. Guo Fan winked at Chen Fan. What do you mean? You're not going to catch up. Are you ready to give up? Chen Fan cursed with a smile. You know nothing. Picking up girls is a hard job. I need to take a break and try to hit the target next time and get the girl right away. Forget it. I don't think there's any hope for you too. Stop talking nonsense. Don't forget the oath you swore that day. You'd better prepare your feces in advance. I will feed you myself when the time comes. Get lost. The two of them walked out of the classroom chatting and laughing and headed straight for the bicycle shed. Unexpectedly, I ran into squad leader Huang Hu here. This guy stopped Su Ruochu and seemed to be saying something. Seeing this, Chen Fan hurried over. Su Ruochu, we're on the way home, why don't we go together? Huang Hu said with a smile, it just so happens that I haven't figured out a few of the questions the teacher talked about in class today, and I was just about to ask you for advice. Su Ruochu was about to speak when she caught a glimpse of Chen Fan and her expression flickered slightly. Chen Fan walked over quickly and stood directly in front of Su Ruochu. You go first. Huang Hu frowned. Chen Fan, what do you mean? It's nothing. Chen Fan sneered, squad leader, don't think I don't know what you are thinking. You can pick up girls if you want, but I warn you, stay away from Su Ruochu. You? Huang Hu was exposed by Chen Fan on the spot. He looked furious and stared at Chen Fan angrily. Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? Why do you interfere in the affairs between me and Su Ruochu? Chen Fan smiled faintly. I'm not that old, but I can tell you that she is my woman. These words made Su Ruochu behind him tremble, and a blush instantly appeared on her little face. But she did not refute. Huang Hu sneered. I think you've been daydreaming too much, haven't you? Would Su Ruochu like someone like you? Ruochu, he said you were his girlfriend. Is that true? Su Ruochu had a blank expression on her face and was about to leave while pushing her bicycle. I don't want to answer such boring questions. Don't go. Huang Hu quickly stepped forward to stop him. Ruochu, now that I've come to this point, I might as well tell you straight. I like you. I originally planned to confess to you after the college entrance examination. Will you be my girlfriend? I don't want to. Su Ruochu rejected the other party without hesitation. Why? Wang Hu's eyes widened, his expression somewhat shocked. It seemed that he never thought that he would be rejected. Do you really like Chen Fan? Su Ruochu glanced at Chen Fan and said lightly. It's none of your business. It seemed that he was irritated by Su Ruochu's attitude, and his proud self-esteem was hit. Wang Hu found it difficult to accept for a moment. Why? Why did you reject me? Am I not good enough? In this school, I am the only one who deserves you. And during the last mathematical Olympiad exam, I had a stomachache and you took the initiative to buy me water and medicine and cared about me. Su Ruochu was speechless. Wang Hu, you think too much. I only have friendship with you as a classmate, it's not what you think. If it was any other student at that time, I would have done the same thing. Impossible. I don't believe it. Wang Hu shouted excitedly, you must like me too, right? Is it because they are both here that you are embarrassed to admit it? Looking at this guy, his defense is broken like a child. Chen Fan almost couldn't help laughing. What a talented person. How could a person be so narcissistic? It's obvious that he has no experience in love and doesn't understand Su Ruochu at all. If Wang Hu continues like this, Su Ruochu will only hate him more. Sure enough, Su Ruochu frowned. Wang Hu was still shouting excitedly. Okay. I'll ask you one last time. If I asked you to choose between me and Chen Fan to go with you, who would you choose? You'd better think it over. I choose Chen Fan. Wang Hu stopped talking abruptly and looked at Su Ruochu in amazement. I choose Chen Fan. Su Ruochu repeated it again. Wang Hu, the college entrance examination is coming soon. You should spend more time on studying. After saying that, he pushed his bicycle towards the school gate. Chen Fan quickly pushed the cart and caught up. He did not forget to turn around and smile at Wang Hu. Thank you. He was sincerely grateful to this guy. If it weren't for Wang Hu, how would he have had the chance to go home with Su Ruochu? Behind him, Wu Shuai looked at the dazed Wang Hu with a smile and waved his hands with an exaggerated expression. Strange, why is there a foul smell from the toilet? Could someone have fallen into the toilet? Upon hearing this, Wang Hu was frightened and looked down at his hands. When he saw that his hands were clean, he finally reacted and looked up at Wu Shuai, who had already ridden away on his bike. Asshole! So it was you who did what happened in the internet cafe last time? Wang Hu's eyes became sharp and resentful. Chen Fan, let's wait and see. Chapter 11. Is this your boyfriend? Chen Fan excitedly pushed his bicycle and followed Su Ruochu out of the school gate. Seeing Su Ruochu walking very fast in front of him, Chen Fan couldn't help but speed up his pace. But Su Ruochu suddenly stopped and turned to look over. Chen Fan was so scared that he slammed on the brakes and stopped. What's wrong? Chen Fan smiled awkwardly. Seeing Su Ruochu just looking at him without saying anything, Chen Fan raised his hand decisively. Understood, understood. I'll be leaving right away. After saying that, he turned around, pushed the cart and was about to leave. Hey, wait a minute! Su Ruochu suddenly shouted. Chen Fan turned 180 degrees with lightning speed, carrying their bicycle, and quickly returned to Su Ruochu. What's wrong? Seeing Chen Fan being so cautious in front of her, Su Ruochu wanted to laugh but held it back. Well, let's go for a walk together. Chen Fan was stunned, wondering if he had heard it wrong. What did you say? Forget it, I didn't hear it. Su Ruochu snorted lightly, turned her head, shook her ponytail, and pushed her bicycle forward. Chen Fan was overjoyed and shouted quickly. Hey, here it comes. Brother Fan, wait for me. At the school gate, Wu Shuai rushed out on his bicycle. Chen Fan immediately turned his head, opened his mouth, and responded with a word. Gun. Wu Shuai was stunned and looked indignant. What a beast! This beast forgets his friends for the sake of beauty. You've forgotten your good friend. Pushing the bicycle, he walked for a distance with Su Ruochu. But the girl just kept her head down and didn't speak. Chen Fan was a little anxious and smiled awkwardly. Har, the atmosphere is a bit awkward. How about I tell you a joke to ease the awkward situation? I'm telling you, this joke is hilarious. I've been counting on this for half my life. Have you been going to the birch forest with Wu Shuai often recently? Su Ruochu suddenly spoke, then looked up and stared at Chen Fan. R. Chen Fan quickly shut up, a little confused. After hesitating for a moment, he quickly told the truth. Yes. A hint of disappointment flashed across Su Ruochu's eyes. The college entrance examination is coming soon. Is this what you mean by studying hard? You said you wanted to get into a top university. It turns out you're just a boaster. Seeing the goddess disappointed, Chen Fan was shocked and hurriedly explained. Don't get me wrong, I didn't go to the birch forest to play games. I'm different from Guo, the guy who only knows how to play games all day. I'm going there to learn. Recite silently in your heart. Brother, I'm sorry. For my lifelong event, I have to put you in an inconvenient position for now. Go to the internet cafe to study. Seeing that Su Ruochu didn't believe it, Chen Fan quickly raised a hand. I swear, everything I said is true. If I told a lie just now, then I will never be able to catch up with you. You, what are you talking about? Su Ruochu's little face turned red, she said something coquettishly, and turned her head away. Chen Fan, however, was serious. I really went there to learn. I recently read in the news that the internet may be the future, so I thought about learning some computer knowledge in advance. Students in our small place are different from those in big cities. They have been exposed to computers since they were young and know more about them than we do. Most of the students here don't know how to type on a keyboard, but kids in big cities might already be proficient in using various software. Chen Fan scratched his head. I just want to study in advance to avoid a big gap between me and others after entering university. Su Ruochu was stunned. He looked at Chen Fan with some surprise. It was as if I was meeting this classmate for the first time. You really think so? Certainly. I said, for you, I will definitely be admitted to the same university as you. Not only do I want to get into the same university as you, I also want to try to keep up with you, so as not to embarrass you in college. Su Ruochu's face was flushed and she felt a little shy. Why are you throwing me away? You have nothing to do with me. Then he added, but your positive attitude towards learning is good. Chen Fan chuckled. Don't praise me, or I won't be able to sleep again tonight. Su Ruochu rolled her eyes and snorted. Even if you want to learn computers, you can't let it interfere with your work. The most important thing for us right now is the college entrance examination. Chen Fan quickly swore, you can rest assured about this. For you, I will definitely take the college entrance examination seriously. Su Ruochu turned her head away with a red face. Whether you study or not has nothing to do with me. After pushing the cart 2 steps, Su Ruochu asked again. After school, Guo said you wanted to use their computer. Oh, that's what happened. Chen Fan smiled and said, I want to learn something, but the environment in the internet cafe is too messy. Su Ruochu hesitated for 2 seconds, as if he was considering something. If you really want to learn computers, I can help you. R. Seeing Chen Fan looking at him with confusion, Su Ruochu got on his bicycle. Come with me. Chen Fan got on the bike with a confused look on his face and rode for a distance in the city with Su Ruochu. Finally, the two came to a commercial street in the south of the city. Su Ruochu, who was leading the way, stopped in front of a signboard. Chen Fan looked up in confusion. Honghai Computer School. Introduction to Computer Basics, Typing Teaching, Document Operation. Chen Fan was a little surprised. He didn't expect that there was a computer school in a small place like theirs. How come I never noticed it before? Su Ruochu parked the bicycle and turned to look at Chen Fan. Come with me. Chen Fan hurriedly followed. After entering, I found that the store was not very big and even a bit simple. It is less than 80 square meters and is filled with 2 rows of more than a dozen computers. They are all old-fashioned brick machines with the simplest configuration. The curtains in the room were drawn and the light was dim. An old fan overhead was spinning and making a creaking sound. Standing at the door, Su Ruochu turned his head and explained. This computer school is opened by a brother in my neighborhood. If you want to learn computers, I can help you ask. After saying that, without waiting for Chen Fan to speak, he took the lead and walked in. Chen Fan had no choice but to follow quickly. Their hall was quiet, with only 3 students fiddling with their computers. Chen Fan took a curious look. I found one of them was practicing typing with 2 fingers, and the other two were playing a little game called Hit the Frog. At the front desk nearby, a man and a woman were fiddling with a laptop with their backs to Chen Fan. "Brother Hong Hai." Su Ruochu took the initiative to call out. The young man wearing black framed glasses and working on a computer looked up. "It's Ruochu, how come you have time to come to my place today?" Su Ruochu smiled and said, "I came to visit on my way home from school." "You're taking the college entrance exam soon, how are you preparing? Are you confident?" It can be seen that this young man is very familiar with Su Ruochu. He walked over and greeted her, then glanced at Chen Fan who was standing beside him, and the corners of his mouth suddenly curled up. "Hey, is this your boyfriend? Okay, I haven't seen you for a while, and you even have a boyfriend." Chapter 12. How about I give it a try? Su Ruochu's pretty face suddenly turned red. "What are you talking about? Believe it or not, I will tell Uncle Ju about it when I get home tonight." "No, I'm just kidding." The young man smiled and extended his hand towards Chen Fan. "Ju Hong Hai." "Chen Fan, I'm Su Ruochu's classmate." "Boy, you are quite capable. This girl rarely goes to school with boys." "Ju Hong Hai." Su Ruochu glared angrily. Okay, I won't talk nonsense anymore." The young man put away his smile. "You two want to play computer games? Just find a place to sit. Remember to wear leg covers. I'll treat you today, so I won't charge you two any fees." As he spoke, he bent down and took out 2 pairs of blue foot covers from a drawer beside him. Looking at this familiar thing, Chen Fan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "When I took my first computer class at school, the teacher required every student to wear foot covers before entering the computer room." To this day, Chen Fan still doesn't understand why those old and broken computers are so worthy of such careful care. "Go play." After casually greeting the two people, Ju Hong Hai turned and looked at the customer next to him. "I'm sorry. There may be a hardware problem with your computer. I can't fix it. I suggest you go to an after-sales store to have a look." The customer next to her was a young beauty, dressed very fashionably, wearing a white dress and her long hair draped over her shoulders. After hearing what Ju Hong Hai said, the beautiful woman frowned and seemed a little depressed. "Is there no other solution?" Ju Hong Hai smiled bitterly. "Sorry. I'm not good at repairing computers." The beauty frowned and asked, "Are there any other computer repair shops around here?" Ju Hong Hai shook his head. "As far as I know, there shouldn't be any. We are a small place, and computers are still a rare commodity. Many people may have never seen a laptop." Seeing that the other party was a little frustrated, Ju Hong Hai said one more sentence. "Besides, your computer is too expensive. Most people don't dare to disassemble and repair it at will. It's better to go to the official after-sales store to have a look." The beauty was a little depressed. "Then I have to go back to Yunhai to repair it, but I need it urgently now." Ju Hong Hai shrugged and said that there was nothing he could do. "Brother Hong Hai." Su Ruochu at the side called out softly. Ju Hong Hai smiled at the beautiful woman, turned and left. The beautiful woman sighed, raised her hand somewhat unwillingly, and pressed the power button a few times with her slender fingers. The screen still didn't respond. In the end, the beauty had no choice but to accept the reality. Just as she was about to close her computer and leave, a voice came from behind her. "How about letting me try?" The beauty was stunned, and when she turned her head, she found Chen Fan standing behind her. "Who are you?" Chen Fan explained with a smile. "When a computer fails to boot, it is usually due to a few common problems. It could be a hardware problem, the memory stick is not properly inserted, or the CPU is overheated. If that doesn't work, then it could be a system error. You can consider reinstalling the system." The beauty was stunned and looked at Chen Fan with some curiosity. Especially seeing that Chen Fan was still wearing a blue and white school uniform. "You are a student." Chen Fan smiled, did not answer, but said something. "You can try to check it out." After saying that, he turned around and was about to leave. Etc. The beauty quickly called out to Chen Fan. "Can you repair computers?" Chen Fan nodded. "I understand a little bit." "Are you sure you can fix it for me?" Chen Fan smiled. "There is nothing 100% certain in this world. Besides, I haven't even seen your computer." The beauty hesitated for a moment, as if she was hesitating. "Well, could you please check it for me?" Seeing that Chen Fan didn't move, the beauty spoke again. Don't worry, whether it can be repaired or not, I'm grateful to you. After getting the other party's promise, Chen Fan stepped forward and looked down at the laptop in front of him carefully. After just one glance, Chen Fan's eyes lit up slightly. This turned out to be a high-end A-series model from IBM, ThinkPad A20P. This thing is genuine high-end product. Even in the country, you may not be able to buy it even if you want to. And in this day and age, even among laptops, this computer is ridiculously expensive. The average price of a laptop computer of this era is between 15,000 and 25,000 yuan. The official suggested retail price of the laptop in front of Chen Fan is 46,000 yuan. You should know that the price of a commercial house in the small city where Chen Fan lives is less than 100,000 yuan. An absolute luxury. Chen Fan couldn't help but look up and glance at the beauty in front of him. I muttered to myself, little rich woman. I tried pressing the power button first, but there was no response. Then he reached for a screwdriver from the toolbox nearby. Chen Fan was just about to make his move when he seemed to have thought of something and looked up at the beautiful woman. Seeing the beautiful woman nod, Chen Fan began to disassemble their machine. After carefully removing a few screws and opening the protective case, Chen Fan couldn't help but click his tongue. It's dirty enough. How long has it been since you cleaned the dust? The beautiful girl's pretty face turned slightly red, feeling a little embarrassed. I can't clean it. In fact, I have never cleaned the dust since I bought it. Chen Fan didn't notice the beauty's embarrassment. He lowered his head and muttered while checking. I'll help you clean up the dust first, then check the memory stick and the motherboard to find the cores. Seeing Chen Fan's skillful movements in disassembling the computer, the beautiful woman was sure that Chen Fan was not a rookie. He automatically ignored Chen Fan's identity as a student in his mind and said with some anticipation, just check it out, no need to ask me. Although in this day and age, this computer is a real luxury. But from Chen Fan's perspective, the computer in front of him is just a toy. Compared with the ultra-thin notebooks of later generations, this thing is as thick as a small suitcase and very bulky. 128 megabytes SD-RAM memory, 20G hard drive, built-in 1.4 megabytes floppy drive and DVD drive. With this configuration, any computer in the future would be enough to beat it. But in this era, it is indeed the king. Chen Fan had no intention of being gentle with women at all. He quickly removed the memory stick and wiped it, then removed the fan and CPU. His movements were smooth and very enjoyable to watch. In the lounge nearby, Zhu Honghai scratched his head in embarrassment. It's not impossible to let your classmates learn computers here. But, aren't you going to take the college entrance examination soon? Also, the tuition here is not cheap. Su Ruochu pouted, can't you give him a discount? Hey! It seems like you care about him a lot. And you still say he's not your boyfriend. Su Ruochu glared, if you keep talking nonsense, I will go back and tell Uncle Zhu. Okay, I give in to you. Zhu Honghai smiled bitterly and said, for your sake, I'll give him a 30% discount. This is the biggest discount, okay. Su Ruochu then nodded with satisfaction. That's more like it. Then I'll go ask him if he agrees. When the two came out of the lounge, they saw Chen Fan fiddling with a female customer's laptop at the counter. Seeing this scene, Zhu Honghai was frightened. What are you doing? Stop it now. As he said this, he rushed over quickly. He knew the price of this computer, if it was damaged by this kid. As the boss, he is implicated. Zhu Honghai was really frightened and rushed forward in 3 or 2 steps. Who told you to move around? You, Before he could utter a curse, he saw Chen Fan pressing the power button of the laptop. The familiar startup screen lit up. Zhu Honghai was stunned for a moment. Su Ruochu also looked at this scene with surprise. Chen Fan stood up straight, clapped his hands, turned around and smiled at the beautiful woman next to him. It's fixed. Check it out. Chapter 13. I must be crazy. Ignoring the expressions of Zhu Honghai and the other man, the beautiful woman walked forward, checked it carefully, and then tried to operate it. Soon an expression of surprise appeared on his face. It's actually been repaired. Thank you so much. Chen Fan put down the screwdriver and brushed the dust off his sleeves. I just checked it briefly for you. If you have the chance in the future, it's best to go to the official after-sales service for a thorough inspection. Thank you. I will. The beauty turned off the computer and took the initiative to introduce herself to Chen Fan. My name is Fan Ling. I'm from Los Angeles. Chen Fan quickly said, Chen Fan. I'm also from Luocheng. Fan Ling smiled faintly. I didn't expect that there are so many hidden talents in our city of Luo, and I ran into one today. As he spoke, he took out his wallet from his bag and counted out 5 bills. Little brother, this is my repair fee for you. Chen Fan was stunned. This is not necessary. I just help out and enjoy helping others. Fan Ling shook her head, looking serious. No, that won't work. There is no free labor in this world. I think that if you put in effort, you should be paid accordingly. After saying that, he stuffed 500 yuan into Chen Fan's hand without saying anything. Chen Fan smiled bitterly, but this is too much. Fan Ling put the notebook into her bag and smiled at Chen Fan. It's not expensive, because you helped me solve a big problem. Otherwise, I really don't know what to do. Thanks. After saying that, he waved to the 3 of them. Goodbye. Zhu Honghai and Su Ruochu seemed to have not yet reacted after watching Fan Ling leave. You just fixed her computer. Chen Fan nodded. I just happen to know a little bit about repairs. Zhu Honghai asked in disbelief, do you know computers? Chen Fan scratched his head, a little bit. Zhu Honghai glanced at Su Ruochu. Didn't you say he was going to learn computers? Seeing Su Ruochu looking at him in surprise, Chen Fan immediately understood. He quickly explained, she misunderstood. I'm not here to learn computers. I just want to find a computer to use. Zhu Honghai asked in confusion, what do you use the computer for? I don't think computer science is part of the college entrance examination. Chen Fan hesitated for a moment, but finally decided to tell the truth. I want to build a website. This time, Zhu Honghai was shocked again. Can you build a website? Without waiting for Chen Fan to speak, Zhu Honghai immediately pulled Chen Fan towards the computer next to him. Come on, show it to me. Without saying anything, he pushed Chen Fan in front of the computer and said with a look of doubt on his face. Show me. Chen Fan first looked at Su Ruochu, then scratched his head. Show what? Well, you can show me the basics first. You can type, right? Just type a random paragraph for me. In Zhu Honghai's opinion, whether a student is good at using a computer can be revealed a lot just by looking at his typing. Chen Fan hesitated for a moment and casually opened a text document. Then he put his hands on the keyboard and started typing. He was typing Susha's poem, Water Melody. Accompanied by the rhythmic sound of keyboard tapping, words appeared on the screen one by one. When will the bright moon appear? I raise my cup to ask the sky. Chen Fan first used the pinyin typing method, and then switched to the Wubi input method halfway. Zhu Honghai was completely stunned. This kid is not only good at pinyin, but also knows Wubi. His typing speed is many times faster than mine. The most important thing is that this kid can type blindly with both hands. You know, most students in this era still use the 2 fingers N. Not only Zhu Honghai was stunned, but the 3 students who were originally studying in the store also exclaimed in amazement, as if they had seen a miracle. Classmate, how do you practice? Can you teach me? Can you teach me too? Why can't I learn it? Seeing this scene, Zhu Honghai seemed to see a business opportunity instantly. He did not question whether Chen Fan could repair the computer, but instead held Chen Fan's shoulder. From today on, you can come to my store anytime to use the computer, and I won't charge you. It's free for you to use. Chen Fan was a little surprised. Isn't he this bad? Zhu Honghai smiled and said, it's settled. But I have a small request. Next time, if there are students coming to consult me, I hope you can help demonstrate your blind typing skills. Chen Fan understood immediately. It seems like they want to use themselves as advertising signs. But this is a good thing for him. No problem. It's settled then. Har har, good brother, you can use the computer here for free today. Zhu Honghai was very excited. He patted Chen Fan on the shoulder and started calling him brother. Su Ruochu stood aside, watching the scene with burning eyes. She didn't interrupt, but just stared at Chen Fan with a strange look. It was as if I wanted to get to know my deskmate all over again. In my previous impression, my deskmate was naughty and mischievous. He is very smart, but he loves to play and always likes to bully himself. But during this period of time, Chen Fan seemed to have become a different person. Focused, serious, mysterious. The way Chen Fan typed just now gave Su Ruochu a great shock. She has a computer at home, but she only knows Pinyin and not Wubi, and she can't type blindly so fast. How did he do it? How many secrets does he still have that he doesn't know about? Looking at Chen Fan's angular profile, a strange thought flashed through Su Ruochu's mind. When Chen Fan gets serious, he is actually quite handsome. As soon as this thought came to his mind, Su Ruochu quickly turned his head away. My heart was pounding. Su Ruochu, what are you thinking about? How did you do that? After coming out of the computer school, Su Ruochu did not leave in a hurry, but asked a question that he had been holding back for a long time. What? Chen Fan didn't understand. I'm talking about your typing. When did you practice it? Chen Fan scratched his head awkwardly. Maybe it's because I used to go to the internet cafe to play games so often that I became proficient at it. HMPH, forget it. Su Ruochu snorted and got on her bike to leave. Hey, I'm rich now. I'll treat you to something delicious. Chen Fan asked with a smile. Keep it for yourself. Su Ruochu glanced at Chen Fan. You know this place anyway, so you can come here by yourself next time. But I still have to remind you that the college entrance examination is coming soon. You need to prioritize. Chen Fan immediately stood at attention. Yes, sir. I will strictly follow my wife's orders. Snort. This time, Su Ruochu was surprisingly not angry, but rode away on his bike. In the next few days, Chen Fan was like a machine wound up with a full spring, and started to run completely. Focus on classes during the day and continue to consolidate all the test content you have memoized. After school, I rushed to Honghai Computer School. He is now racing against time. I have to design their web page in the shortest possible time and then put it online. Before Boss Yao could react, he successfully intercepted the opportunity. If you slow down by even a step, all your efforts will be meaningless. Su Ruochu discovered that Chen Fan had changed. Getting busier and busier, more focused. During class, he always flipped through the textbook quickly and took notes attentively. No more disturbing yourself, no more passing notes to yourself. When the four of them were eating outside at noon, Chen Fan was still smiling and joking. But Su Ruochu could see that Chen Fan was worried, and his eyes seemed full of urgency. It was not until this moment that Su Ruochu suddenly understood. It turns out that I have never understood this deskmate. There are only 3 days left until the college entrance examination. Chen Fan's website construction has also reached the most critical moment. He felt that he simply didn't have enough time. I'm so busy. And that night, Su Ruochu stood outside the gate of Honghai Computer School holding an umbrella. She also felt that she must be crazy. Chapter 14. Their website is online. That night, Su Ruochu sat in the study and looked through his book of wrong answers. Mom is cooking in the kitchen outside. I heard lightning and thunder outside, and a rainstorm was coming. Su Ruochu suddenly remembered that Chen Fan seemed to still be in the computer school. He probably didn't bring an umbrella. With almost no hesitation, Su Ruochu took out his raincoat and umbrella and rushed out in a hurry. Mom, I'm going out for a while and will be back soon. Without waiting for her mother to reply, Su Ruochu closed the door and rushed out. I rode my bike to the computer school, panting. I noticed the lights were still on inside and saw that familiar figure through the window. Su Ruochu, with sweat on his head, looked down at the umbrella in his hand. Suddenly hesitant again. I made the decision without much thought. Now standing at the door, she felt a little at a loss again. These days, as soon as Chen Fan got out of school, he went to Honghai Computer School to build a website. I am busy until very late every day and don't even have time to eat. In fact, he didn't know. Su Ruochu had sneaked over here to see him twice. But she didn't go in, she just stood outside and took a peek through the window. Su Ruochu saw a Chen Fan who was completely different from the one in school. He sat in front of the computer, his 10 slender fingers flying, operating the computer interface that Su Ruochu could not understand at all. Zhu Honghai would occasionally come over to observe, and the two would sometimes have heated discussions. But Zhu Honghai always had to admit defeat. At that moment, Su Ruochu seemed to see Chen Fan's body shining. On their way back that day, Su Ruochu's mind kept appearing the image of Chen Fan sitting in front of the computer with great concentration. And Su Ruochu has a secret that she hasn't told anyone. That night she actually dreamed of Chen Fan. The two of them were admitted to university together and became lovers. The two dated like other college couples, eating, shopping, holding hands, and even kissing. After waking up, Su Ruochu shyly lifted the quilt to cover her face. But I couldn't help but think of Chen Fan's focused look in my mind. Su Ruochu, you must be crazy. She blushed and cursed herself. Now, Su Ruochu stood at the gate of the computer school, hesitating. I must be crazy. She cursed herself again. Could he have misunderstood something? How about leaving the umbrella at the door? Just when Su Ruochu was hesitating, a loud shout interrupted her thoughts. Done. Chen Fan in the room shouted excitedly. Done. Zhu Honghai, who was standing by, suddenly looked up, then quickly stood up and ran over. Done. Quick. Let me see. Zhu Honghai couldn't wait to open their website created by Chen Fan. Domain network. What kind of website is this? Zhu Honghai was a little surprised and didn't understand why Chen Fan gave him such a name. But soon, he was shocked by the gorgeousness of the website created by Chen Fan. In this era, all websites are still in the early stages of exploration and are a long way from being beautiful. However, the domain name network created by Chen Fan completely drew on the successful experience of later websites. Domain name network is actually a forum website. People inside can register accounts, post, offer rewards, and buy and sell. Not only is the interface simple and beautiful, it is also divided into various special sections. There are various interesting sections such as trading market, auction hall, subscription consultation, collection valuation, etc. It's just. After browsing it, Zhu Honghai couldn't help but sigh. It's just simply too good. I have never seen such a beautiful website. With this skill alone, you can definitely apply for a job at one of those big internet companies. Chen Fan smiled. This is just the beginning. Because time is limited. This forum can only be regarded as a mud house, very simple. In the future, I will continue to add new functions to it before it is completely perfect. Is this website used for trading domain names? Zhu Honghai had obviously heard of this and couldn't help but ask curiously. Do you think there's a future for domain name trading? Chen Fan smiled and said, it's not up to me to decide whether it's feasible or not. I am only responsible for providing a trading platform for those who believe it's feasible. Zhu Honghai looked at Chen Fan meaningfully. You're not telling the truth. But then he shouted excitedly, when will your website be online? I can't wait. I want to be your first customer. Online now. Zhu Honghai was stunned. Now. Shouldn't we go back and pick an auspicious day for something this important, then take a shower and change clothes before going online? Chen Fan rolled his eyes. There are not so many explanations. And there are only 3 days left before the college entrance examination. I don't have that much time to waste. As he spoke, Chen Fan uploaded and published their domain name network he had built with just one click. Zhu Honghai was stunned. You really are not particular about small matters. Chen Fan stretched lazily. Brother Honghai, thank you for these days. That's enough. We are all so familiar with each other, why are you being polite to me? Zhu Honghai couldn't help but ask, summer vacation will start after the college entrance examination. You promised me that you would come over when you have time. Chen Fan knew the other party's purpose. Summer vacation is usually a critical time for computer schools like this to recruit students, and Zhu Honghai wants to use his brand to advertise. Chen Fan did not feel any aversion to the other party's little selfishness. What's more, they let me use their computer for such a long time for free. No problem. As he said this, he put on his school bag. I'm leaving first. It's windy outside and it's going to rain soon. How about you take a taxi back? No, I can get home quickly by bike. Chen Fan waved goodbye to Zhu Honghai, went out alone, got on his bicycle and rode out quickly. There was lightning and thunder overhead, and suddenly raindrops fell down with crackling sounds. Depend on. It's raining really hard. Chen Fan let out a strange cry and was about to speed up, but when he glanced to the side, his expression froze for a moment. Gar. With an emergency brake, Chen Fan stopped. Su Ruochu. Chen Fan was a little bit unbelieving and quickly pushed his bicycle to the eaves of a shop along the roadside. Su Ruochu was hiding here at the moment, looking at Chen Fan somewhat at a loss. She hesitated outside the door for a long time and was originally planning to leave secretly. Unexpectedly, Chen Fan came out just in time. "Why are you here?" Chen Fan was a little surprised. Su Ruochu was not wearing a school uniform, but a thin white dress. On her feet is a pair of cute little sandals. 2 sections of snow-white calves were exposed. As the wind howled, Su Ruochu could only hold onto the fluttering hem of her skirt with both hands. Looking at Chen Fan in front of him, Su Ruochu felt a little nervous. He quickly handed over the umbrella in his hand. I saw it was raining, and I thought you might not have brought an umbrella, so." She couldn't say the following words, her little face turned red. She blushed and lowered her head, then handed the umbrella to Chen Fan. "You can go back with this umbrella." Chen Fan looked at the girl in front of him with burning eyes. The strong wind made her hair fly everywhere and her skirt flutter. Heavy rain has begun to fall. Raindrops hit the sultry road, splashing up pieces of mud, and a smell of hot and damp earth hit my face. The weather, which was humid and hot just now, suddenly became extremely cool. Because of the wind, heavy rain blew in. Su Ruochu's beautiful hair was soaked, and her dress was also wet, sticking to her body. He looks a little fragile, which makes people feel sorry for him. Seeing Chen Fan staring at her, Su Ruochu's heart beat faster. "You, don't get me wrong, I just happened to live close to here, so I gave it to you on the way, R." Before he could finish his words, Chen Fan suddenly took a step forward. He reached out and pulled Su Ruochu's delicate body towards him. He held her tightly in his arms. Chapter 15. Do I have any other choice? Su Ruochu's mind went blank for a moment when Chen Fan suddenly held her in his arms. Her pretty face flushed and her heart was pounding. "You, please let me go." She gently pushed Chen Fan's arm with her hand. As a result, someone hugged even harder. "Let me hold you for a while longer." Chen Fan's voice rang in his ears. "Ruochu, I miss you so much." Yes, it has been almost 20 years since the two of them passed away in their previous life. Over the years, Chen Fan missed Su Ruochu all the time. "I miss you so much, I think about you every second. These years, without you, I have lived like a walking corpse. Without you, my life is meaningless." Su Ruochu curled up in Chen Fan's arms, a big question mark flashed through her mind. What on earth is he talking about? How come I don't understand? "Chen Fan, you let me go first." "I don't." Su Ruochu said in a soft voice with a red face. You let me go first, or I will really be angry. Then you have to promise me that you won't leave after I let you go." "Okay, I won't leave." Only then did Chen Fan let go of his hand and took a step back, his eyes burning. I felt a little embarrassed when Chen Fan stared at me. Su Ruochu blushed and avoided his gaze, but after hesitating for a moment she handed over the umbrella. "Take the umbrella first. You are soaked." But Chen Fan didn't care at all. He took the umbrella and held it over Su Ruochu's head to block the rain. Seeing this, Su Ruochu had no choice but to gently pull Chen Fan closer to the eaves. The heavy rain was still pouring down, and the raindrops made crackling sounds everywhere. There was not a single car around, and it seemed as if they were the only two people left in the world. Su Ruochu was silent for 2 seconds, and finally took a deep breath. I said, before the college entrance examination." Chen Fan suddenly interrupted. "You came here specially to bring me an umbrella, right?" Su Ruochu raised his head and glanced at Chen Fan. "Yes, but don't get me wrong. So you don't hate me in your heart, right?" "I?" Su Ruochu opened her mouth, but for a moment she didn't know how to start. Chen Fan suddenly plucked up the courage to reach out and hold Su Ruochu's small hand. Su Ruochu was startled and subconsciously wanted to pull it back. But Chen Fan refused to let go. Su Ruochu frowned and glared at Chen Fan angrily. Chen Fan, however, showed a pitiful look on his face. "Just for a moment. I'm afraid you might run away suddenly." Su Ruochu sighed, as if she was defeated by this guy. She didn't pull her hand away and just let Chen Fan hold her. "The rain is getting heavier. The two of them got closer and closer, and even though Chen Fan helped hold an umbrella, most of Su Ruochu's dress was soaked. As for Chen Fan, he was already soaked. After a moment of silence, Su Ruochu finally spoke. Maybe I'm not as good as you think. When you go to college, you will meet someone better, then. No. Chen Fan said with absolute certainty. Trust me. I know you better than you know yourself. You've proven yourself to be excellent. In my last life, this life, and even the next life, I will never fall in love with anyone else. I only have eyes for you. Su Ruochu did not feel disgusted by such corny love words, and a ripple seemed to be stirred in the deepest part of her heart. Faced with Chen Fan's initiative, Su Ruochu was a little confused and didn't know how to respond. At this time, Chen Fan suddenly took off his school uniform, gently helped Su Ruochu put it on, and then zipped it up. However, when it reached his chest, Chen Fan's movements suddenly stopped. Because of being wet by the rain, Su Ruochu's clothes on her chest were all stuck to her body. Plus, she was only wearing a thin white dress at the moment. The pink underwear is clearly visible through their wet clothes. Su Ruochu's pretty face suddenly turned red. When she looked up, she saw Chen Fan staring at her with burning eyes. You, As soon as the words came out, they were blocked by someone. Su Ruochu was startled, and her whole body felt as if it was hit by an electric current, numb and tingling. She reached out and tried to push Chen Fan away. But my whole body felt weak and numb. Chen Fan did not push his luck any further. After the kiss, he reached out and hugged Su Ruochu into his arms, then used his body to shield her from the wind and rain. Let me hold you for a little while, just a little while. I'm so tired, so tired. Chen Fan murmured. Lying on the other person's shoulder, Su Ruochu did not struggle for the first time. Listening to the other person's strong heartbeat, Su Ruochu seemed to feel Chen Fan's fatigue. Gently snuggle in each other's arms. The only sound was the sound of raindrops falling. Finally, after a long time, Chen Fan's voice rang out. Ruochu. Be my girlfriend, okay? Su Ruochu leaned on Chen Fan's shoulder and spoke softly. I said I won't date before the college entrance exam. But I can't wait. I'm afraid that as time goes on, you will disappear from my sight again. Why say goodbye? Su Ruochu was a little confused and blinked. If I say no, will you let me go? Won't. Chen Fan answered decisively. If I refuse, will you let me find someone else to be my boyfriend in the future? Won't. No matter where you go, I will find you. Su Ruochu suddenly sighed. In that case, what else can I do? Chen Fan suddenly relaxed and looked at Su Ruochu in disbelief. You agree? Su Ruochu blushed and turned her head to look aside. Do I have any other choice? Chen Fan suddenly laughed. There is none left. You can only be my wife in this life. Su Ruochu curled her lips. That's it. Who made me soft-hearted? Seeing you so pitiful, I'll just treat it as helping you. Har har. Chen Fan suddenly laughed excitedly. Great. Ruochu agreed. She agreed to be my girlfriend. Su Ruochu suddenly stomped her feet with a red face. Keep your voice down. Aren't you afraid that others might hear you? Chen Fan suddenly hugged Su Ruochu's slender waist, picked her up, and turned her around a few times. I want the whole world to hear it. I, Chen Fan, am the happiest person tonight. Seeing this guy yelling like a child, Su Ruochu helplessly let him hold him in his arms. At the same time, I sighed in my heart. Alas, I finally gave in. He patted Chen Fan's shoulder gently. You, put me down first. Chen Fan obediently put Su Ruochu on the ground. She stared at Su Ruochu and raised her hand to push aside a strand of wet hair. You look so beautiful tonight. Su Ruochu blushed and said softly. Although I promised you, but I have conditions. You have to agree to my 3 conditions first, then what I just said will count. Chen Fan smiled and nodded. Don't mention 3 conditions, I'll agree to 100. Su Ruochu glared. Don't be so slick, listen to me first. Yes. My wife will speak first. Chen Fan stood still and pretended to listen attentively. Seeing this scene, Su Ruochu couldn't help but find it a little funny. Almost laughed. First of all, the first condition. Chapter 16. My daughter is in love. First of all, the first condition. Although I promised you, we can't make our relationship public until the college entrance examination is over. Chen Fan nodded. No problem, I promise. Su Ruochu then added, also, don't forget what you promised me before. You said you wanted to apply to the same university as me. If you fail the exam, what I just said won't count. Can you do that? Able. Chen Fan said this with absolute certainty. Don't worry, I will definitely pass the exam. No matter where you go, I will never let you leave me in this life. Su Ruochu's face was flushed, but her heart was warm. She was not a heartless woman, and it was impossible for her to be indifferent to Chen Fan's cheesy love words. What's more, she had no aversion to Chen Fan before, and even had a slight liking for him. What's the last request? Chen Fan asked with a smile. The last one. I haven't thought about it yet. I'll tell you when I think about it. Chen Fan smiled. I understand that the reason why Su Ruochu made these 3 requests was just to cover up her shyness and embarrassment. In fact, it is just to find a way out for myself. Okay. Whenever you remember it, you can tell me and I will obey. So far, the relationship between the two has finally taken the most crucial step. As the heavy rain fell, the atmosphere gradually became charming. Su Ruochu sat next to Chen Fan, not knowing what she was thinking. Chen Fan hesitated for a moment, then slowly put his arms around Su Ruochu's shoulders and pulled her into his arms. Su Ruochu's body trembled. But this time, she did not resist. Instead, she leaned lightly on Chen Fan's shoulder. Ruochu. I will always remember this day. July 5th, today is our anniversary of love. Su Ruochu nodded softly, and even mustered up the courage to reach out and gently put her arm around Chen Fan's arm. At this point, Su Ruochu finally accepted Chen Fan completely. It was a year and a half earlier than when she agreed to be Chen Fan's girlfriend in her previous life. The two snuggled together and watched the raindrops falling from the sky. They all seemed to be cherishing this rare time together. After more than 10 minutes, the rain finally stopped. I want to go back. Su Ruochu said softly. Stay with me for a while. Seeing Chen Fan's reluctant look, Su Ruochu shook her head. No. I've been out for a long time. If you don't go back, your family will be worried. You don't want my parents to see you, right? After hearing this, Chen Fan quickly spoke. Then I'll take you back. This time, Su Ruochu did not refuse. Good. The two did not ride their bicycles, but instead pushed the bikes and walked slowly back along the road. Unfortunately, before I had walked far, I heard a voice calling from afar. No, it's my mother. Su Ruochu's expression changed and he quickly pushed Chen Fan. You should leave first. Chen Fan felt a little reluctant. How about I take you there? I'll just say I'm your classmate. Su Ruochu blushed and whispered, do you think my mother will believe it? If you want to be torn apart, then go ahead. Upon hearing this, Chen Fan decisively got on his bike. Then I'll go first. Hey, grab an umbrella. Su Ruochu handed the umbrella to the other party. See you tomorrow. Chen Fan smiled, waved, got on his bike and ran away. The sound of this guy singing excitedly could be heard from afar. We ordinary people are so happy today. Puff. Seeing this scene, Su Ruochu couldn't help but chuckle. Then he waved his hand quickly and rode his bike to meet them. Mom, I'm here. Where have you been, kid? You scared your mother to death. Lin Wanxiu quickly came over and looked at her daughter with some concern. Mom, why did you come out? Su Ruochu smiled and took her mother's arm. How can I not be worried when you come out in such heavy rain? What did you come out for? Oh, nothing, I forgot my textbook at Hong Hai's computer school. Do we have to come and get it now? Lin Wanxiu was obviously a little unconvinced. Look at how wet you are. The college entrance exam is coming up soon. What if you catch a cold? Also, who were you chatting with just now? Su Ruochu blushed and said quickly, no one, just a stranger who took shelter with me. Really just a stranger? Lin Wanxiu stared at her daughter with a look of suspicion. Oh mom, what are you doing? Can you please go back first? I'm almost catching a cold. Upon hearing this, Lin Wanxiu didn't bother to ask any more questions and hurriedly urged. Hurry, go back and change your clothes. I'll make you a bowl of ginger soup. Before leaving, Lin Wanxiu couldn't help but turn her head and look behind her. I always feel that my daughter is acting weird tonight. In the evening, Su Ruochu opened the door and entered the bedroom, where Lin Wanxiu was applying moisturizer. My daughter is asleep. Asleep. Then let's go to bed early. We've been socializing all day and we're exhausted. Su Ruochu lay down on the bed and stretched comfortably. Lin Wanxiu turned around and looked over. Old Su, haven't you noticed that something is wrong with your daughter recently? What's wrong? I suspect your daughter is in love. Su Ruochu suddenly laughed. What am I supposed to do? Isn't it normal for my daughter to fall in love when she grows up? Lin Wanxiu stood up quickly. Su Ruochu, is there anyone who is as good as you as a father? My daughter is about to take the college entrance examination, and you don't care at all. Seeing that his wife was angry, Su Ruochu quickly sat up and laughed it off. Maybe you saw it wrongly. Maybe my daughter is under a lot of pressure from the college entrance examination, so she gave you a false impression. Impossible. Lin Wanxiu glared, sat on the bed and whispered. When dinner was about to start tonight, your daughter suddenly ran out with a raincoat and an umbrella. It was nearly an hour before I came back. When I went out to look for her, your daughter looked very nervous, as if she had just separated from someone. Su Ruochu frowned. Did you see it clearly? Maybe you are overthinking it. Humph. Do you think I'm stupid? I'm so easy to fool. Lin Wanxiu snorted coldly. I can clearly see how nervous your daughter is. She came back tonight wearing a school uniform and hid in her bedroom, thinking I wasn't noticing. That dress is so big, it's obviously a boy's. Also, she took a raincoat and an umbrella with her when she went out, but when she came back, the umbrella was gone. After hearing this, Su Ruochu frowned. Even if what you said is true, even if my daughter is in love, it's no big deal, right? My daughter has grown up, and it's time for her to have her own private space. Lin Wanxiu glared and said, I don't object to my daughter dating, but you have to find a time. What time is it now? The college entrance examination is in 3 days. What if I'm affected and fail the college entrance exam? Su Ruochu looked at his wife and asked, You didn't ask her. You think I'm stupid? Of course I pretended I didn't see it. That's good. No matter what, let's not talk about this for now. Let's wait until the college entrance examination is over. Lin Wanxiu was somewhat unwilling. I won't talk about this girl for now, but you have to find out who that brat is for me. Su Ruochu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Is this necessary? Chapter 17 Youth does not say goodbye. Is this necessary? Seeing that her husband didn't take it seriously, Lin Wanxiu was a little excited. Of course. What if the other party is a bad kid and leads our daughter astray? My daughter is so innocent. If she gets cheated, you, as her father, will have nowhere to cry. Su Ruochu thought about it and agreed. Okay. Leave this to me. I'll find out. Lin Wanxiu was still worried. I will ask for leave from the company tomorrow and will not go to work. I will pick up and drop off my daughter to school every day until the college entrance examination is over. Su Ruochu originally wanted to ask his wife if she was making a big deal out of nothing. But after thinking about it, he nodded. As you wish. Don't forget to find out who that guy is. Got it, go to sleep. Next door bedroom. Su Ruochu was lying on the bed, with Chen Fan's neatly folded school uniform next to her pillow. He reached out and stroked it gently. He showed a rather helpless expression. I finally agreed to him. But soon, the corners of her mouth curled up slightly again. Su Ruochu, come on. Believe in your own vision, everything is the best arrangement. Early the next morning, Chen Fan walked into the classroom and saw Su Ruochu sitting in his seat at a glance. The two looked at each other. Su Ruochu was still a little embarrassed and looked away with a red face. As soon as Chen Fan sat down, Su Ruochu handed him a bag containing his school uniform. Chen Fan handed the umbrella to the other party. This time, Su Ruochu did not avoid the gaze. They smiled at each other. Everything is implied. Although the website has just been launched, there is still a lot to do. But Chen Fan no longer had the energy to keep staring. Because the college entrance examination is really coming. I don't know if it's because Su Ruochu agreed to be his girlfriend. Chen Fan was in an excited state all day long. My memory seemed to be assisted by God, and I actually remembered several important questions from the college entrance examination. Even when the four of them were having lunch at a small restaurant outside the school at noon, Wu Shuai noticed Chen Fan's mood changes. Something is wrong. Something is very wrong. When walking back after dinner, Wu Shuai stared at Chen Fan and muttered to himself. What are you mumbling to yourself? Wu Shuai grabbed Chen Fan and said, Tell me the truth, are you hiding something from me? Chen Fan was shocked. You know everything. Know what? Wu Shuai was confused. What should I know? Chen Fan said calmly, I have been secretly observing who has diarrhea recently. Didn't you say you would drink 3 pounds of liquid at that time? You know what, it's really hard to find someone with diarrhea at this time. Depend on. Wu Shuai simply raised his middle finger. Then suddenly I realized. You caught up with Su Ruochu. She agreed to be your girlfriend. Chen Fan smiled mysteriously on purpose. You guess. Grass. Wu Shuai went berserk. You are so disloyal. Chen Fan smiled and joked, the college entrance examination is coming soon. When are you going to confess your feelings? Speaking of this, Wu Shuai suddenly became a little nervous. I secretly glanced at Su Ruochu and Li Na who were walking in front and chatting. What do you think the chances of success are if I confess my love to Li Na? Chen Fan frowned and thought about it seriously. Half and half. Anyway, after observing you for the past few days, I don't think Li Na dislikes you. Wu Shuai took a deep breath. So what do you think about me confessing to her tomorrow after school? Chen Fan was stunned. Tomorrow? The college entrance examination is the day after tomorrow. Are you going to confess tomorrow? Wu Shuai looked serious. I want to leave a memory from my high school life. Chen Fan originally wanted to persuade the other party not to be impulsive. Then I thought, didn't I confess to Su Ruochu without caring about anything? What qualifications do you have to criticize others? Okay. I fully support you. Wu Shuai clenched his fist. Don't worry. Wait for my good news. The last day before the college entrance examination is on the 7th. The students in the class have basically lost interest in studying. The teachers took turns walking into the classroom, chatting with everyone, and finally wished everyone good luck in the college entrance examination and a bright future. The atmosphere was a bit sad, and some girls with low tear points were already secretly wiping away tears. Having taken the college entrance examination twice, Chen Fan has long been immune to these. He now just looks forward to the end of the college entrance examination. By then, I can go to Yunhai with Ruochu and study in the same university. He turned his head and glanced at Su Ruochu. The girl's eyes were red, and she was obviously affected by the words of the teachers. As if sensing something, Su Ruochu turned his head and looked at Chen Fan. Chen Fan just stared at the other person with a smile. Su Ruochu did not dodge, but snorted softly. What are you looking at? Look at my wife, she's so beautiful. You? Su Ruochu immediately looked around nervously. Then he glared at Chen Fan fiercely. Wife, which university are you going to apply to? Su Ruochu was stunned and hesitated for a moment. It seemed as if he was afraid that the name of the school he mentioned would bring too much pressure to Chen Fan. I haven't thought about it yet. Chen Fan smiled. It doesn't matter. No matter which university you apply to, I will go with you. In the last class of the morning, the head teacher Wang Chiming walked into the classroom. He was holding a file bag in his hand, which contained everyone's admission tickets. Everyone has talked about the college entrance examination countless times. It's finally here. Students whose names I called out will go up to the stage to receive their admission tickets. Li Qingli, the exam location is number 3, examination room 6, number 1 middle school. Yao Qiang, number 7 middle school, examination room 2, number 14. Every time the teacher read out a number, a student stood up and walked forward. Su Ruochu, number 1 middle school, examination room 3, number 12. Come on. Chen Fan smiled and made a victory gesture towards Su Ruochu. As the students finished reading one by one, Chen Fan's name was finally called. Chen Fan, number 1 middle school, examination room 13, number 21. After Chen Fan got his admission ticket, Su Ruochu suddenly whispered. You and Wang Hu are in the same examination room. Chen Fan was stunned. Real? Chen Fan didn't pay any attention to this. Moreover, he couldn't remember whether he was in the same examination room with Wang Hu in his previous life. I turned my head and looked towards Wang Hu's position, and found that Wang Hu was looking at me. The two looked at each other. Then they looked away expressionlessly. Su Ruochu whispered, he is number 4, you two are quite far away. Chen Fan smiled and said, it doesn't matter whether it's far or near. You can't copy answers in the college entrance examination anyway. After handing out the admission ticket to the last student, the head teacher picked up the blackboard eraser and tapped it lightly on the table. Be quiet. Students, this is the last class, and it is also the last class of your high school career. Tomorrow, you will enter the examination room and complete the most important battle in your life. As soon as the teacher said this, many students in the class had tears in their eyes. We don't have classes in the afternoon, so we'll be dismissed at noon. Everyone can pack up their books and move them back. Students who live far away can move to the dormitory first. Also, you can go to the examination room in the afternoon and confirm your examination room and seat in advance. Don't go to the wrong place tomorrow. Also, before leaving tomorrow, make sure you have all the necessary items for the exam ready. Don't forget to bring your admission ticket. Their head teacher was on the stage chattering about various things to pay attention to. But not many people in the audience were listening attentively. Everyone was whispering and talking to each other, discussing who would be in the same examination room with them. Chen Fan watched this scene silently. He looked at the classroom and his classmates with some nostalgia. He knew that maybe everyone didn't feel it yet. But a few years later, a dozen years later, you will find out when you enter society and start working. These 3 years in high school are the most memorable time in their lives. Chapter 18. Do you remember me? The bell for the last class finally rang. The students all stood up at once, as if they had discussed it beforehand. They all bowed to their class teacher Wang Chiming, who was sitting on the podium. Teacher, thank you for your hard work. The eyes of this middle-aged teacher, who was always known for his strictness, turned red. He smiled and waved to everyone. Classmates, get out of class is over. I wish you all good luck in the college entrance examination, a bright future, and that you will still be young when you return. As soon as their head teacher left, the students in the classroom began to pack up the books and test papers they were going to take away. Some students took a notebook they had prepared long ago and went around looking for people to sign it as a souvenir. Chen Fan glanced at Su Ruochu. It's hard to carry so many books. How about I help you take them back later? Just as Su Ruochu was about to speak, Li Na ran over with a notebook in her hand, grinning. Quick! You two sign for me first. Chen Fan smiled. Why are you doing this? There's no point. You won't know where to throw it away later anyway. Li Na said coquettishly. Oh, you're such a nuisance. It's such a touching farewell moment, you have to say something like this to spoil the mood. Then he turned his head and looked at Su Ruochu. You don't even care about your husband. Su Ruochu's face suddenly turned red and he spat softly. What are you talking about? Chen Fan smiled and raised his hands in surrender. Okay, I apologize. As compensation, I'll sign for you. After saying that, he picked up the gel pen handed to him by the other party and wrote a sentence on it. A bright future awaits you, and may you always be happy. Then he wrote 2 characters in a flamboyant style, Chen Fan. After writing, he handed the pen to Su Ruochu. Su Ruochu wrote her own name in beautiful handwriting under Chen Fan's name and added a word of blessing. Chen Fan smiled and joked, you are lucky to get my autograph. Be sure to keep it well. When I become rich, your signature will be valuable. But you're so beautiful. Li Na put away the notebook and did not forget to remind Su Ruochu. Keep an eye on him, he's becoming more and more slick. When I turned around, I found Wu Shui standing behind me with a smile on his face. I'll sign 1, 2. Li Na handed over the notebook. Write well. I'll beat you up if you dare to write nonsense. Looking at the two of them talking and laughing, Chen Fan looked at Su Ruochu with a smile. We don't need to sign, right? Su Ruochu was stunned, and just as he was about to reach out to take out the notebook from the hole in the table, he stopped again. Chen Fan explained with a smile. I've saved a good spot for your signature. Sign it on my family's household registration book and our marriage certificate from now on. Su Ruochu's pretty face suddenly turned red, and she turned around shyly and ran to chat with Li Na. While the two girls were looking for someone to sign their autographs, Chen Fan and Wu Shuai stood on the corridor fence outside the classroom, looking at the students coming and going below. Have you decided? It's decided. I'll help Li Na move her things back to the dormitory later, and we'll talk then. Wu Shuai has a sense of tragedy and grandeur, as if the wind is whistling and the Yi River is cold. If I stick my head out, I'll get a knife. If I hide my head, I'll get a knife. I won't delay any longer. Today is the day. The two chatted for a while. Turning around, Wu Shuai saw Li Na coming out with a pile of books and shouted quickly. I'll do it, I'll do it. Let us men do this kind of rough work. Chen Fan watched the two of them leave the classroom with a smile and secretly gave Wu Shuai a thumbs up. Come on. At this time Su Ruochu came out. He glanced around the corridor, and after spotting Chen Fan, he hesitated for a moment, as if he had finally mustered up the courage. Walked over. For the first time, he took the initiative to stand beside Chen Fan. What's on your mind? Chen Fan smiled and pointed at the students running around. I'm watching them. As high school comes to an end, many boys muster up the courage to run to the class of the girl they like and shout her name. I want to leave one last thought for my youth. And those boys and girls who have already established a romantic relationship finally stopped dodging and snuggled up to each other openly, enjoying their own world. Looking at this scene, Su Ruochu was somewhat touched. Tell me, how many of them can really make it to the end? Chen Fan reached out and gently held Su Ruochu's small hand. Su Ruochu's expression instantly became panicked, like a frightened little rabbit. He looked at Chen Fan nervously, then tried to break free. But Chen Fan's eyes were firm and he refused to let go. Su Ruochu hesitated for a moment, but finally compromised. Let the other person hold it secretly. I still found an excuse for myself in my heart. Just think of it as youth without any regrets. Seeing that Su Ruochu was no longer struggling, Chen Fan slowly spoke. I don't know about them, but the two of us will never be separated again in this life. After hearing this, Su Ruochu's face turned red, but a sweet feeling flashed through her heart. Which girl doesn't have love in her heart? As a young girl, she had secretly fantasized about her love. At this moment, a boy from the next class suddenly rushed to the classroom door in front of the two of them. Su Ruochu, I like you. After saying that, he ran away without looking back. The two looked stunned. Chen Fan reacted and immediately pretended to be angry and rolled up his sleeves to rush out. Su Ruochu grabbed the other person with an amused look on his face. What are you doing? Chen Fan chuckled. Compared to them, I am lucky. At this time, the sound of singing came from some class in the corridor upstairs. For a moment, the singing spread throughout the entire teaching building. This completely ignited the atmosphere. All the students in the classroom ran out in a noisy manner. Some people cheered loudly, while others sang along at the top of their lungs. The emotions of many students were aroused, and some boys began to tear up their test papers and textbooks and throw them down the corridor. For a moment, the sky was covered with white snow, as if heavy snow was falling. Some boys even summon up the courage to shout out the names of the girls they like. Some girls secretly cried until their eyes turned red. Su Ruochu quietly pulled her hand away. She was still a little embarrassed in front of so many people. Chen Fan did not force it, but moved to the side and held Su Ruochu in his arms to prevent her from being squeezed by the students around her. Su Ruochu lay on the fence, looking at the papers falling in front of him, seeming to be a little emotional. Chen Fan, can you sing? Yes. Would you please sing a song for me? Chen Fan smiled bitterly, I don't sing well. Su Ruochu turned her head and glanced at Chen Fan. I want to hear it. Good. Chen Fan nodded. Not to mention that Su Ruochu wanted to listen to music, even if she wanted the stars in the sky, Chen Fan would rush over to help her pick them down. What song do you want to hear? Su Ruochu thought for a moment and said, any song will do. Chen Fan turned his head and took a look, and just then a classmate came out of the classroom with a guitar. Lend it to me. Chen Fan reached out and grabbed it. He put the shoulder strap over his shoulders, stood in front of Su Ruochu, lowered his head and gently plucked a few chords. In his previous life, he had studied guitar for a period of time in college, so fortunately his skills were not rusty yet. After adjusting the tune, Chen Fan looked up at Su Ruochu and smiled slightly. He opened his mouth and began to hum softly. La 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 la. Time flies by. The talkative girl. Do you remember me? I miss you. Time has passed, no need to say more. My youth is all about you. Don't disturb each other at the ends of the earth. I will always cherish your kindness. My summer, I love you. I can't forget your distant figure. I drank a beer and picked up my guitar. Please let me sing a song for you. Chen Fan's voice was not clear, and was even a little low and hoarse. When I first started speaking the first sentence, I was a little nervous and trembling. But soon, he got into the state. Looking at Su Ruochu standing in front of him, his eyes were dazed. The memory seemed to go back to the past. In my mind, every moment of my time with Su Ruochu in my past life flashed back like a scene from a movie. The surrounding corridors were in a mess. But at this moment, in the eyes of the two, all the sounds around them seemed to have disappeared. Just each other. Chapter 19 Tomorrow, leaping over the dragon gate. Gradually, the students who were originally noisy around also quieted down and looked over in the direction of the sound. Chen Fan ignored the changes around him and continued to sing in a low voice. La 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 la. I don't want to grow up too fast. The dream we promised. How are you now? I miss you. Can we go back to the past? Back to that summer after the rain. We stood shoulder to shoulder and talked about our wishes. Sitting on the beach in the breeze. Miss the past and cherish the present. Don't want to say goodbye to youth. Chen Fan's voice is low and slightly hoarse, coupled with the lyrics that are full of emotion. Soon many classmates were infected, and some girls even secretly wiped away their tears. Su Ruochu stood there quietly, with test papers raining down behind her. Chen Fan in front of me was wearing jeans and a white t-shirt, gently strumming the guitar. Clean, sunny and full of unique charm. Listening to each other singing affectionately, that summer after the rain, we stood shoulder to shoulder and talked about our wishes. Su Ruochu naturally thought of the rainy night a few days ago. It was that night that she agreed to Chen Fan's pursuit. As she listened, her eyes became red. I don't want to grow up too fast. The dream has come true. It's just that you're not around. I miss you. Chen Fan repeated the last sentence twice, and after singing it, he returned the guitar to the classmate next to him. Applause broke out all around. Chen Fan didn't care at all, but stared at Su Ruochu with a bright smile. Does it sound good? Nice. Su Ruochu blushed and nodded repeatedly. What's the name of this song? I miss you. I said, this song is called Miss You. Su Ruochu was a little confused. Who sang this? Why have I never heard of it before? Chen Fan chuckled and spoke shamelessly. I write. It was written for one girl alone. I repeated to myself, I'm sorry, brother Xiao Qi. You have so many classic songs, I guess you don't mind if I copy one. After hearing what Chen Fan said, Su Ruochu's pretty face blushed again, but she felt happy in her heart. It sounds really nice. I love so much. Chen Fan bent down and whispered in Su Ruochu's ear. If you like it, then I will sing it for you in the future, and only for you, okay? Su Ruochu's face turned red and her heart was beating wildly. After hesitating for a moment, he nodded softly. The party, which lasted for nearly an hour, finally came to an end. Everyone started packing up their belongings and preparing to leave school. Chen Fan didn't have much stuff, just a school bag and textbooks for the exam. He sold all the other books and test papers to the auntie who collected junk downstairs. 3 years of knowledge earned me $32.60. I used the money to buy 2 bottles of Coke and ran back to the classroom. As a result, Su Ruochu's seat was empty. Chen Fan was stunned for a moment, then quickly turned around and ran towards the school gate. After finally rushing to the school gate, I saw Su Ruochu standing on the roadside with a school bag in her arms from afar. There was a black Mercedes parked next to it. There was also a young woman dressed very fashionably, who was helping to put the books into the trunk. Chen Fan stopped and watched the scene from a distance. When Su Ruochu was about to get on the bus, he seemed to have telepathically glanced in the direction of the school gate. She saw Chen Fan and her eyes lit up with joy. Mom, I suddenly remembered that I forgot to take something. Wait for me. What did you leave behind? If it's not important, don't take it. No, it's very important. Su Ruochu has already run out. He rushed into the school gate panting and stood in front of Chen Fan. Chen Fan smiled and said, I thought you were leaving without saying hello. Su Ruochu secretly glanced behind him. After making sure that the mother outside could not see what was happening here, he suddenly stepped forward and gently hugged Chen Fan. After hugging her tightly, Su Ruochu quickly separated and took 2 steps back. Chen Fan, don't forget what you promised me. Tomorrow is the college entrance examination. You must do well in it. No matter whether you can get into the same school as me, as long as you promise to do your best, I am willing to be your girlfriend. After saying this with a red face, without waiting for Chen Fan to speak, Su Ruochu turned around and ran back outside. I will pass the exam. Staring at the other person's back, Chen Fan shouted loudly. After watching Su Ruochu get on the car and leave, Chen Fan returned to the classroom feeling a little lost. It turned out that Guo Shuai was back. Chen Fan walked over and handed the other person a bottle of Coke. How about it? Guo Shuai nodded and shook his head. What's the meaning? Guo Shuai looked up. I told her, but she rejected. Guo Shuai shook his head. She didn't agree, but she didn't seem to refuse either. What do you mean? Chen Fan was a little confused. She said she would not tell me the answer today, but would give me the answer after the college entrance examination. Guo Shuai scratched his head. Do you think this counts as a rejection of me? Did Li Na really tell you that? Guo Shuai nodded. What do you think she meant by that? Chen Fan laughed and scolded. Of course they said that because they were afraid it would affect your college entrance examination. So she refused. That may not be the case. Anyway, I don't think Li Na dislikes you. Otherwise, she wouldn't have eaten with you these days. Seeing that Guo Shuai still looked depressed, Chen Fan patted him on the shoulder. Okay. Let's pack up and go. Now you should prepare for the college entrance examination. Like you said before, if they pass the exam and you fail, then they won't have a chance to agree to your application even if they want to. Guo Shuai stood up quickly. Right. You have a point. I have to do my best. I want to be like you and try to get into the same school as Li Na. Chen Fan smiled. That's right. After being enlightened, Guo Shuai seemed to come alive again. Let's go, we have to go to the examination room this afternoon. Night. Chen Fan sat alone at his desk, and carefully went over all the recorded test questions and knowledge points. There was a knock on the door behind me. Mother Li Jinqiu pushed the door and walked in. Son, don't watch too late. You have an exam tomorrow. Chen Fan smiled. I know, Mom. You should go to bed early. I'll watch for a while and then go to sleep. Li Jinqiu came over and put a cup of hot milk on the table. Drink this before going to bed, it will help you sleep. Thank you, Mom. Li Jinqiu rubbed his son's head lovingly. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Although your father hopes that you can pass the college entrance examination to bring honor to the family, he actually asked me to tell you in secret that it doesn't matter if you fail. We can still study at a junior college and get a job in the factory after graduation. Chen Fan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Mom, I understand. Okay, go to bed early. Don't forget to drink the milk. Li Jinqiu gently closed the door and went out. Chen Fan sat on the chair, not in the mood to continue reading. Looking at the hot milk on the table, Chen Fan's eyes gradually became firm. Since I have a second chance to live my life, I have to live it like a human being. For my parents, for Ruochu. I want to stand out. Let us take tomorrow's college entrance examination as the first step to changing our life. Clenching his fists slightly, Chen Fan murmured in a low voice. Tomorrow, we will jump over the Dragon Gate. Chapter 20, Fallen into a Trap. July 7th. Chen Fan got up before the alarm rang. Get dressed, go out, wash your face and brush your teeth. Dad hadn't come back from his night shift yet. Mom had gotten up earlier than Chen Fan and was now in the kitchen making breakfast. After washing up, I sat on the steps at the door and stared at the sky in a daze. To be honest, even though he was prepared, Chen Fan was still a little nervous at this moment. He was worried whether there would be changes in the college entrance examination papers. What if the test paper changes? What if Ruochu and I can't go to the same university? Son, it's time to eat. The mother's voice came from the room, pulling Chen Fan back from his thoughts. Chen Fan stood up and brushed the dirt off his butt. Take a deep breath. There's no point thinking about it now. Just do it and it's done. When I got back to their house, my mother brought out a bowl of noodles. There are also 2 lotus eggs and a sausage on it. Chen Fan was a little amused. Since I was a child, my mother would make me a bowl of noodles every time I had an exam. After so many years, I almost forgot my mother's craftsmanship. Chen Fan seemed to have a good appetite as he ate voraciously, but his mother beside him looked nervous and couldn't eat. Seeing this scene, Chen Fan couldn't help but smile uncomforted. Mom, don't worry, your son will not let you down this time. Li Jinqiu smiled. Mom believes you. Mom, just go to work after dinner. You don't have to see me off. Li Jinqiu glared and said, how can that be possible? I already asked for leave yesterday. Chen Fan insisted, you really don't need to send me off. Just do what you need to do. If everyone goes to take the exam, I will be even more nervous. Seeing that his son was serious, Li Jinqiu couldn't help but ask, do I really not need to send you off? Really? After quickly finishing his noodles, Chen Fan went back to his bedroom to get his exam material bag. Mom, I'm leaving. Li Jinqiu suddenly became nervous and gave instructions quickly. Don't be nervous, read the questions carefully, put aside the ones you don't know, and check them carefully after you finish. Listening to his mother's chattering, Chen Fan pushed his bicycle to the gate of the yard. Mom, don't worry. Your son will definitely be admitted to college this time. After saying that, he waved his hand. I'm leaving. Chen Fan's examination venue was at number 1 middle school, and it took more than half an hour to get there by bike. Chen Fan set out an hour earlier so that he could adapt to the environment when he got there. When we arrived at the gate of number 1 middle school, we unexpectedly found that the place was already crowded with parents of students sending their children to take the exam. It seems that all parents are the same when it comes to the college entrance examination. Chen Fan found a place to park his bicycle, picked up his bag of materials and prepared to go to school. As a result, at this moment, a young man suddenly caught up and handed a note to Chen Fan. Someone told me to give this to you. Chen Fan was stunned. Before I could even open my mouth to ask a question, the man had already run away. He opened the note with a puzzled look on his face, but after just one glance, Chen Fan was stunned. There was only one sentence on the note. Something happened to Su Ruochu. Come to number 14 Nanyang Road immediately. What happened to Ruochu? Chen Fan panicked and instinctively wanted to rush over. But soon reason made him stop. Who wrote this note? How did he know that something happened to Su Ruochu? Also, how did the other party know that I knew Su Ruochu? A strong smell of conspiracy was overwhelming. There is more than half an hour left before the exam starts. Chen Fan wanted to ignore it and just turn around and go into the school. But this concerns Su Ruochu's safety. Even if there is only a 1 in 10,000 chance that it is true. Chen Fan didn't dare to take the risk. Therefore, without much hesitation, he immediately turned around and ran towards the address on the note. Nanyang Road is not far from number 1 middle school, about 3 intersections away. Chen Fan ran to Nanyang Road panting, and then began to search one by one. I finally found the sign for number 14. It turned out to be an old alley. Without hesitation, Chen Fan walked straight in. The alley was very quiet and there was no one in it. After walking for a distance, I found that there was no road ahead. Bang! There was a muffled sound behind me. Chen Fan turned around quickly and saw 7 or 8 young men walking out from behind him. Each of them was holding a stick or a steel pipe in their hands, staring at him with ill intentions. As expected, I fell into the trap. Chen Fan did not show much surprise, but shouted in a deep voice. Who are you? The red-haired guy leading the team on the opposite side held a baseball bat in his hand and deliberately hit the wall again and again. Are you Chen Fan? Someone is offering you money to cut off one of your hands. Chen Fan suddenly sneered. It's Wang Hu. Don't worry about it. Anyway, they pay the money and we do their work. While Chen Fan was talking and negotiating with the other party, he stuffed the bag of materials in his hand into the waistband behind his back and covered it with his clothes. This thing is related to my college entrance examination, so I must protect it well. Do you know what day it is today? There are patrol cars everywhere. If things get out of hand, you're all going to end up in trouble. After hearing this, the red-haired guy on the opposite side was not afraid. Instead, he just laughed. You want to scare me with the police? I wasn't brought up to be scared. Boy, let me give you a piece of advice. Just let me break one of my arms, maybe I can still make it in time for the exam. If you dare to resist, I'm sorry, you may not have a chance to take the exam. Chen Fan lowered his head and looked around, then reached out and picked up a dirty beer bottle from the corner. Don't worry. I won't shout. As he spoke, he grabbed the wine bottle and knocked it against the wall next to him, breaking the bottom of the bottle. Then he took off his school uniform top, and in front of these thugs, began to wrap the clothes around his arms little by little, tying his palms together with the beer bottle. Seeing this scene, the guys on the opposite side were obviously stunned. Boss. Fuck, what are you still standing there for? Get started. Red Hair did not delay any longer and gave the order directly, rushing towards Chen Fan with a few of his followers. As expected, Chen Fan did not shout, but walked towards the group of people. Bang! As soon as they met, Chen Fan was hit on the shoulder by a stick, and his whole body leaned downward. But soon Chen Fan swung his hand back. Puff! The broken bottle cut a gash on Red Hair's face. R. The red-haired man screamed instantly. Fuck! Kill him, kill him! Several younger brothers immediately surrounded him, and Chen Fan grabbed the broken wine bottle and greeted them. Come up and give it a try if you're not afraid of death. You know what, this sentence really shocked these thugs. The red-haired man at the back stood up, covering his face with his hands, cursing loudly. Idiot! His alone, what's there to be afraid of? Upon hearing this, Chen Fan rushed over first without waiting for these people to take action. Bang! After struggling to injure two people, Chen Fan was attacked from behind and hit on the head with a stick. Blood spurted out on the spot. Chen Fan staggered and almost fell. There was a buzzing in my mind. Chapter 21. Entering the examination room with injury. Seeing Chen Fan staggering, I thought this guy was going to fall. Who would have thought that Chen Fan managed to hold on? And he just ignored the guys around him. He jumped directly towards the red-haired guy in front of him. Puff puff. The beer bottle in his hand instantly stabbed into the guy's thigh. R. Poor red-haired guy had just stood up when he was stabbed twice again. The whole person howled like a pig being slaughtered. Chen Fan grabbed the guy's red hair and pressed the broken bottle in his hand against his neck. Who dares to come up? I'm underage, so I can just kill one first. As soon as these words came out, the thugs nearby stopped immediately in fear. The red-haired boy was obviously scared to death. He didn't expect that a high school student could be so cruel. Brother, it's a misunderstanding. Stop talking nonsense. Chen Fan raised his hand and punched the guy in the face, breaking his nose and causing blood to spurt all over him. Tell me. Who told you to do this? The red-haired man was still wailing, and the broken wine bottle in Chen Fan's hand had already pressed against his neck, leaving a bloody mark. Explain. Don't kill me, don't kill me. It's Wang Hu. Wang Hu, give me 1,000 yuan and let me cripple one of your hands on the day of the college entrance examination. It's indeed him. Chen Fan narrowed his eyes slightly. He pulled the red-haired man back a few steps. Suddenly he kicked the red-haired guy on the butt, turned around and ran towards the exit of the alley. Fuck! Catch him! Red-haired man lay on the ground and yelled. Catch him for me. I'm going to kill him. Just as he was about to reach the entrance of the alley, the thugs behind him caught up with him. Just when Chen Fan was about to continue fighting, a figure suddenly jumped out from the entrance of the alley. Guo Shuai held up a trash can and threw it directly at those guys. Get in the car. Without any hesitation, Chen Fan quickly ran out of the alley and jumped onto the back seat of Guo Shuai's bicycle. Guo Shuai kicked his feet and jumped out instantly. The gang of hooligans behind chased for a distance, throwing the steel pipes and sticks in their hands, hitting the road with a bang. But in the end, I could only watch them run away. I pedaled my bike as hard as I could to get to school. It was not until he arrived near the school gate that Gu Shuai stepped on tiptoe and stopped suddenly. He turned quickly and looked at Chen Fan. Are you okay? You're bleeding. Chen Fan was not in good condition. He was hit several times and had a big bump on his head. The most frightening thing was the palm of his left hand, which was cut deeply by a broken wine bottle and was bleeding profusely. Seeing this, Gu Shuai immediately turned around. I'll take you to the hospital. Chen Fan grabbed the other person's arm. No. I have an exam soon. Fuck, how are you going to take the exam like this? You're asking for your life. Chen Fan quickly grabbed the other person. Gu Shuai, listen to me, listen to me. 3 years of hard work is all for today, isn't it? I can't give up. My injury only looks scary, it's not serious. I just need to stop the bleeding. You? Listen to me. Chen Fan grabbed the other person's hand and exerted slight force. Gu Shuai looked at Chen Fan deeply and suddenly gritted his teeth. There should be an ambulance parked outside the school. I'll take you there to get you bandaged first. Otherwise, the school will not allow you to enter the examination room if you are like this. This time Chen Fan did not refuse. Good. The two quickly rushed to the ambulance parked outside the school gate. Seeing Chen Fan like this, the nurse on duty was obviously shocked. What's going on? Did you guys fight? Chen Fan made up a reason casually. I fell off my bike and landed on the broken glass. The young nurse wanted to say something, but the female doctor next to her shouted. Don't ask now, just bandage it first. After getting in the ambulance, the female doctor frowned when she saw the wound on Chen Fan's hand. The wound is too serious and must be sutured immediately. Why don't we go to the hospital? No. Chen Fan quickly said, Doctor, please just give me a simple treatment of the wound. I have to go in for an exam later. Exam? How can you take an exam in your condition? Are you trying to save your life? Chen Fan pleaded, Doctor, this exam is really important to me. My family is not well off and can no longer afford to let me repeat the year. Thank you for your help. Hearing this, the female doctor hesitated for a moment, and finally spoke. Even if we treat it here, you have to sew up the wound, otherwise you will bleed to death. No problem. Chen Fan nodded. You need to be given anesthesia before suturing, it may affect your subsequent exams. Upon hearing this, Chen Fan quickly shook his head. I don't need anesthesia, just sew me up directly. You don't want to die. The beautiful female doctor frowned and seemed a little angry. Chen Fan, however, looked determined. This exam is really important to me. Please. Gu Shuai on the side also joined in. Doctor, can you help me? This test is really important to him. After taking a deep look at Chen Fan, the female doctor pondered for a few seconds, then stood up and walked aside with an expressionless face. If you don't use anesthesia, it will be very painful. Can you bear it? Chen Fan nodded. No problem. Seeing Chen Fan being so stubborn, the female doctor couldn't help but feel helpless. Ask the nurse next to you to help bandage Chen Fan's forehead. She personally used iodine to disinfect the wound on Chen Fan's hand. Then he picked up the needle and thread for sewing. If you can't help it, tell me right away. Seeing Chen Fan nod, the female doctor stopped talking nonsense and directly inserted a needle into the flesh of Chen Fan's palm. Chen Fan frowned, and the corners of his mouth twitched slightly in pain. But he didn't make any sound. The female doctor looked up at Chen Fan, and without hesitation, began to suture the wound skillfully. 5 minutes later, the wound was sutured. Chen Fan was already sweating profusely. The beautiful doctor looked at Chen Fan with some admiration. Although the wound has been sutured, there is still a risk of infection. After the exam, I must go to the hospital for a comprehensive disinfection. Clear. How much? The female doctor raised her hand and tucked a strand of hair from her temple behind her ear. We are the college entrance examination ambulance of love, and we don't charge any fees. Chen Fan stood up and quickly put on his school uniform. He turned around and winked at Gu Shuai, and the two of them jumped out of the ambulance one after the other. Before leaving, Chen Fan turned and looked at the female doctor. Thanks. After saying that, he ran quickly towards the school gate. What a lunatic. The young nurse beside her couldn't help but mutter. Lin Yue stared at Chen Fan's running back and murmured. At this age, he has such strong endurance and faith. I believe he will succeed in anything he does in the future. 13 Examination Rooms. Wang Hu sat in his seat and turned his head to look at the empty seat behind him. Then he looked up at the clock on the wall. There is 1 minute left and the exam is about to begin. It seems that Chen Fan can't come. You deserve it. Wang Hu cursed in his heart and suddenly felt very happy. Dare to snatch the woman from me. Don't you even look at what you are? Chen Fan, this is what happens when you go against me. His legs were swinging back and forth excitedly and he couldn't help but sing softly. The two invigilators on the podium also noticed the empty seat. I looked up at the time. Ding-a-ling. The final entrance bell rang. Okay, classmates. Just as the invigilator opened his mouth, a gust of wind suddenly blew at the classroom door. A figure rushed into the classroom as the bell rang. Report. Chapter 22 First day of exam, win. There was a sudden noise in the classroom. A group of candidates were talking among themselves, looking at Chen Fan standing at the door with surprise. It was not just because he entered the classroom at the sound of the bell, but also because of Chen Fan's image at the moment. His head was wrapped in gauze and one of his hands was wrapped in a thick bandage. The clothes on his body were stained with blood. It looks really scary. Quiet. Everyone be quiet. The invigilator knocked hard on the table. After everyone quieted down, they looked at Chen Fan. What's wrong with you? Chen Fan had no choice but to make up a lie. Report, I fell down when coming to school. The invigilator frowned. Can you still take the exam in your condition? Chen Fan raised his right hand and moved it twice. No problem. The two invigilators looked at each other and finally nodded. Come in. Thank you, teacher. Chen Fan walked into the classroom, walked to his seat and sat down. Look up at a certain location. There, Wang Hu was staring at him in amazement. In fact, Wang Hu was frightened when Chen Fan suddenly appeared. He never expected that Chen Fan would come back at the last moment. Seeing Chen Fan looking at him, Wang Hu's expression changed slightly, a little unnatural. But Chen Fan looked at him with a very calm look. No anger, no hysteria. He just glanced at it briefly and then looked away. He just passed over the yellow tiger as if he was looking at air. This scene made Wang Hu quite unhappy. Humph, why are you pretending? You're lucky this time. I want to see how you take the exam again. Chen Fan was in no mood to pay attention to Wang Hu. His clothes were still covered in blood. I simply took off my school uniform and stuffed it into the hole in the desk. Then take a deep breath and adjust your state. The bell rang. The invigilator on the stage began to read out the examination room rules. After the announcement, the two teachers opened the sealed file bag containing the test papers together. The classroom was quiet and each student had a different expression. Some were full of confidence, while others looked nervous. Two teachers walked down from the podium with the test papers and began to distribute them. As soon as he got the test paper, Chen Fan quickly glanced through it. First is the final essay topic. When Chen Fan saw that the topic of the composition was still, discuss the perspectives on looking at problems in life and the different answers to solving problems through different understandings of four graphic symbols, he finally let go of his worries. No change. Everything is exactly the same as the test paper in the previous life. The bell rang. An invigilator reminded, start answering the questions. A group of candidates immediately picked up their pens and started answering the questions quickly. Chen Fan took a deep breath and wiped the blood off his palms to avoid getting it on the answer sheet. Pick up the pen and carefully write down your school class, test number, and name on the answer sheet. Then start answering the questions. Chen Fan answered the questions very quickly, except for a few reading comprehension questions that did not have standard answers, which he was unsure about. As for other idioms with wrong characters, poetry completion, appropriate punctuation and sentence errors, Chen Fan had almost no pause when he had to answer these with standard answers. Especially for those questions that I still remember the answers to, I would just scan the questions once and then quickly start writing down the answers that I had memoized many times. Finally, there is the essay question. Chen Fan rubbed his sore palms and began to write down the composition he had prepared in advance on the test paper. While other candidates were still struggling to think about how to come up with an idea for their composition, Chen Fan's ideas were already flowing like a flood. There is no need to think at all, just write down the prepared composition from memory. Chen Fan was the first candidate to finish writing. Although he was confident that he could get a high score, Chen Fan did not slack off at all. I checked it again carefully from the beginning. It was not until the bell rang indicating the end of the exam that Chen Fan put down the pen in his hand and breathed a sigh of relief. The first subject is Chinese, and I passed it. Huang, who didn't look at Chen Fan, he stood up and ran out quickly. Chen Fan was too lazy to bother this guy, so he stood up, stretched his arms, and walked out of the examination room with his dirty clothes. In the corridor outside, Wu Shuai had been waiting there for a long time. How about it? It's okay. Chen Fan said this, but he was actually very sure in his heart that if nothing unexpected happened, he could get at least 130 points in Chinese. And you? Wu Shuai is full of confidence. Don't worry, I have filled all the questions thoroughly, there will be absolutely no problem. After hearing this, Chen Fan was too lazy to continue asking. I'm leaving. Hey, are you okay with your injury? Do you want to go to the hospital? Chen Fan moved his left hand. It's better than I thought. It doesn't hurt anymore. It seems that the beautiful doctor has good skills. Hearing this, Wu Shuai breathed a sigh of relief. Are you going back for lunch at noon? Chen Fan shook his head. It will take too much time to go back, so just eat something outside and wait for the math test in the afternoon. At the same time, I was glad that I told my mother in the morning that I would not go back home at noon. Otherwise, I would scare my mother when I go back with all these injuries. Then I won't go back either. Let's go. Let's have dinner together. The two of them went downstairs together and walked towards the school gate. Wu Shuai suddenly asked, Are you sure it was Wang who did this? Fuck, I remember this grandson seemed to be in the same examination room with you, right? Chen Fan sneered. He ran away after the test. It seems he was afraid that I would beat him up. Wu Shuai turned his head and looked over. What do you think? Do you want to mess with him? Chen Fan shook his head. Take the test first. We'll talk after you're done with it. Wu Shuai pinched his finger joints, and they made crackling sounds. Okay, I'll listen to you. As he was speaking, Wu Shuai suddenly paused and nudged Chen Fan with his elbow. Who do you think that is? Chen Fan looked up and found Su Ruochu in a white dress standing outside the school gate, looking around as if looking for someone. Walk. Chen Fan hurriedly pulled Wu Shuai into the crowd and quietly slipped in another direction. Why are you hiding? Aren't you going to say hello to the school beauty? Wu Shuai looked puzzled. I don't want her to worry. Fuck. You sound so real. She hasn't agreed to be your girlfriend yet, so why would she worry about you? Stop talking nonsense and hurry up. I'm hungry. It's your treat today. Fuck, why should I treat you? I am a wounded soldier. You're so cruel. At the school gate, Lin Wanxiu opened the car door. Ruochu, let's go. What are you still looking at? Here it comes. Su Ruochu glanced around the campus somewhat unwillingly, but still did not see the familiar figure. In the end, I could only turn around and get on the car with some disappointment. At noon, I had a simple meal with Wu Shuai in a small restaurant. Because the exam didn't start until 3 in the afternoon, Chen Fan and Wu Shuai sneaked off to the internet cafe after dinner. Each of them found a computer, and Wu Shuai continued to play Red Alert. Chen Fan went online and opened his own domain name to take a look. Their website was online for 3 or 4 days, but it only had 1 or 200 views. However, there are about 50 people registered. The retention rate is very good. This shows that Chen Fan's website is very beautiful and practical and has a great effect. But Chen Fan was not satisfied with this data at all. In the past, Wan Wang acquired eNet in September, with only 2 months left. I must find a way to increase the website's traffic in the next 2 months. Otherwise, the acquisition would never happen. While thinking about these, I typed in Yi Wang and clicked search. As a result, the next second, Chen Fan was stunned. Depend on. E.com is actually online. Chapter 23, College Entrance Examination, smoother than I thought. Chen Fan was confused. E.com is actually online. This means that when I was busy building the domain name network some time ago, Boss Yao was also building the EU network. There was only 3 or 4 days difference between the launch of the two websites. A moment. Chen Fan felt unprecedented pressure and urgency. He first studied the network carefully. To be honest, looking back from the perspective of later generations, this forum website was really too simple. Not to mention compared with my own domain name website, even compared with some similar websites, it is also a bunch of rubbish. But Chen Fan knew. It was such a website that attracted the attention of capital in just a few months. Eventually, it was acquired by Hi China in the same year, allowing Yao Jinbo to earn his first capital, and he himself joined Hi China as a senior executive. And in this life, the bug Chen Fan appeared. Domain name network and a U network were launched online simultaneously. It is bound to divide all the traffic. What we need to see next is whose website can grab the bulk of the traffic and eventually rise strongly. Chen Fan took a deep breath. The thing I was most worried about happened. He believed that Boss Yao must have also noticed his domain name network. There will definitely be a fierce competition between two similar websites to grab traffic. The best way to get ahead of your competitors is to promote. There is no better way to promote a website than to spend money. Spend a lot of money. In this respect, Chen Fan cannot compare with Boss Yao at all. Although Boss Yao was also starting a business at that time, Chen Fan knew that the funds he had were beyond his ability to compete with. Because he only has a little over 520 yuan on his body now. 500 of it was earned from repairing someone's computer last time. If Boss Yao invests a lot of money in promotion later, Chen Fan will really have no way out. Call. Chen Fan exhaled slowly and calmed himself down. At present, the only advantage of having your own domain name network is that the website is beautiful and practical. Whether it is the website interface or the various section settings, it is definitely several versions ahead of e.com. I still have a chance. Chen Fan quickly calmed himself down. Currently, the two websites are online at the same time. My own website can take the lead temporarily thanks to its beautiful interface and rich and convenient functions. What I have to do now is to prepare corresponding response strategies in advance before Boss Yao starts spending money on promotion. On their way back to the examination room in the afternoon, Chen Fan was still thinking about his response strategy. It was not until he entered the classroom that Chen Fan shook his head to sober himself up. Take the exam with peace of mind. After the college entrance examination is over and summer vacation begins, I still have a month to have a good fight with Boss Yao. The bell rang. The invigilator began to distribute math test papers. When it comes to mathematics, Chen Fan no longer has any golden fingers. Except for the last few big questions that were memoized from the previous life, the previous content can only be answered based on existing knowledge. After finishing the math test, Chen Fan was far from relaxed. 150 points, I estimate I can get more than 100 points. After the math exam, Chen Fan did not meet Su Ruochu, but slipped away with Guo Shuai in advance. Before going home, in order to avoid being discovered by his parents, he and Guo Shuai changed into school uniforms in advance. He also removed the gauze on his head and the bandages on his hands. But even so, my mother Li Jinqiu still saw through it as soon as I got home. After all, such a big bump on the head cannot be easily covered up. Chen Fan had no choice but to lie and said that he accidentally fell on his way home. How can you be so careless? Do you want to go to the hospital? Li Jinqiu was a little nervous. Chen Fan smiled and waved his hands. Mom, it's okay, I just bumped into something. I've asked the doctor to check it out, and he said it's okay and the bump will go away in a few days. How can you be so careless, kid? At this time, Father Chen Zhenya interrupted his wife. That's enough. My son said he's fine, so stop nagging me. Young people can't get hurt even if they bump into something. After saying this, he glared at his wife, signaling her not to affect his son's mood for the exam. During the meal, Li Jinqiu's expression was not very good, and it was obvious that she was still worried about her son. Instead, Chen Zhenya chatted with his son for a few words. Chen Fan said with a smile that he did quite well in the exam today and might have a chance to get a bachelor's degree. Seeing their son's relaxed look, the couple secretly looked at each other and finally breathed a sigh of relief after a day's worry. The second day there was only an English test. Chen Fan is not worried about English. In addition to having made thorough preparations, the only advantage he still had after graduating from his previous life so many years ago was English. As the business grows bigger, it is inevitable to deal with foreigners. Chen Fan improved his English level bit by bit in this way. Sure enough, English was not difficult, especially the last essay question. Chen Fan simply wrote out the prepared essay from memory. On the morning of July 9th, there was the last subject exam. Chen Fan answered the questions very smoothly as if he was assisted by God, and finished the test paper almost an hour ahead of schedule. After a careful check, Chen Fan breathed a sigh of relief. He knew that he should have no problem with the college entrance examination. If nothing unexpected happens, he can go to the same university as Su Ruochu. When the bell rang, Chen Fan was the first to stand up and hand in his paper. I walked out of the classroom, picked up my school bag, and was originally planning to meet up with Guo Shuai. As soon as I went down the stairs, I saw a familiar figure. Su Ruochu stood there quietly, seemingly having been waiting for a long time. Su Ruochu felt a little worried as she hadn't seen Chen Fan for 2 days. For this last exam, she handed in her paper 10 minutes early just to wait for Chen Fan here. Knowing this, Chen Fan was somewhat moved. He raised his hand and gently rubbed Su Ruochu's head. "Silly girl, I'm fine." Su Ruochu had sharp eyes and immediately noticed the big bump on Chen Fan's head. He reached out and grabbed Chen Fan's hand, and then noticed the scar on Chen Fan's hand. "What's going on? You are injured." Tears immediately flowed out from the corners of my eyes. Looking at the wound on Chen Fan's palm, Su Ruochu felt heartbroken. Chen Fan hurriedly raised his hand in a panic to wipe away the tears from the other person's eyes. Don't cry, don't cry. I just scratched myself accidentally. Look, I'm fine, aren't I? It would have been better if I hadn't said the result. Now that I have said it, I can't stop crying." Su Ruochu grabbed Chen Fan's hand and choked. "What the hell is going on? How did you get hurt?" Chen Fan smiled bitterly. "I broke a bottle and scratched it accidentally." Su Ruochu lowered her head, looked at Chen Fan's palm with a distressed look, and gently stroked the stitched scar with her hand. "Does it still hurt?" Chen Fan smiled and said, "It hurt a lot before, but it doesn't hurt anymore when you touch it. Of course, if you could give me a kiss, maybe the pain wouldn't go away at all." With tears in her eyes, Su Ruochu lightly hit Chen Fan. "You're so injured and yet you're still so smooth talking. You have been avoiding me these days, is this the reason?" Chen Fan smiled awkwardly and raised his hand to gently wipe the other person's tears. "Yes. I don't want you to worry." Su Ruochu pouted her lips and seemed a little angry. "You must let me know first about this kind of thing in the future." Good. Chapter 24 Sister-in-law, my lifelong happiness depends on you. Good. Chen Fan nodded decisively. "I was wrong before. I was only worried about you worrying and ignored your thoughts. I apologize." Su Ruochu was satisfied and gently took Chen Fan's arm, reaching out to touch the wound carefully. "Is it really not painful anymore?" As he was speaking, a figure walked down the stairs. "It's Wang Hu." When the three of them met, they were all stunned. Chen Fan had a blank expression on his face. Su Ruochu hesitated for a moment, but this time she did not show any embarrassment or avoidance. Her hands were still tightly clasped around Chen Fan's arms. Anyway, the college entrance examination is over. She can be with Chen Fan openly. Only Wang Hu looked at the two of them with complicated eyes, then suddenly changed his expression and grinned. "Chen Fan, how did you do in the exam this time? I really admire you for persisting in taking the exam despite being injured like this." Chen Fan said with a smile. "Thank you for your concern, monitor. You should have done very well in the exam, right? By the way, be careful when you walk alone next time. Don't be like me." Wang Hu's expression froze obviously, and he felt that Chen Fan's words were a threat to him. Wang Hu couldn't hide his embarrassment and smiled awkwardly. "I have something else to do. I'm leaving now. By the way, don't forget to go back to school in the afternoon. The answers to the college entrance examination will be announced then." After saying these two sentences, Wang Hu could no longer stay and quickly slipped away. For some reason, the way Chen Fan looked at him always made him feel creepy. Could it be that this guy already knew that I was the one hiring someone to deal with him? Chen Fan withdrew his gaze from Wang Hu's back and smiled at Su Ruochu. "Are you going home at noon? I see your mother has been picking you up home these days." Su Ruochu shook her head. Not going back. You didn't stay to accompany me on purpose. Su Ruochu blushed, lowered her head and said nothing. Are you hungry? Shall we find a place to eat? Su Ruochu nodded slightly. Oh, and there's Guishuai. Call this guy, and call Li Na, and let's go to the old place. Chen Fan smiled and joked, maybe I won't have time to eat there in the future. Good. Su Ruochu nodded obediently. Since agreeing to be Chen Fan's girlfriend, Su Ruochu has gradually become docile and dependent. After waiting at the school gate for a while, Guishuai ran out on his bicycle. From a distance, I saw Su Ruochu holding Chen Fan's arm. Guishuai slammed on the brakes, looking as if he had seen a ghost. Shit. Are you too serious? Su Ruochu blushed and wanted to pull her hand back. But Chen Fan smiled and held her little hand tightly. You are lucky, you are the first to know the news. Fuck. Are you trying to show off? I remember someone said to stand on his head. Are you hungry, student counselor? Let's go eat. It's my treat. Guishuai quickly laughed it off and tried to change the subject. If we weren't waiting for your treat, we would have left long ago. Guishuai just raised his middle finger. You are worthy of being my good brother. I knew you had no good intentions. Chen Fan smiled and patted the back seat of the bicycle, asking Su Ruochu to sit on it. Hold on tight, let's go. The sun is scorching on the road at noon. However, the three people who had just finished the exam did not feel hot at all. Instead, their faces were full of excitement and full of imagination about the future. Back at the small restaurant they had been to last time, Su Ruochu glanced at Guishuai who was going to buy beer and asked in a low voice. What happened to Guishuai? I've been feeling a bit depressed since I made the phone call just now. Chen Fan leaned close to Su Ruochu's ear and whispered. I'll tell you a secret, don't tell anyone else. Guishuai likes Li Na and has confessed his love to her, but Li Na has not given him a specific answer yet. Su Ruochu's beautiful eyes widened instantly. Real. Chen Fan smiled and said, maybe he was a little depressed after knowing that Li Na would not come after the phone call. Su Ruochu immediately showed an expression of, I see. No wonder he always arranged for us to go out for dinner together. It turns out he was pursuing Li Na. Chen Fan coughed dryly. Well, I'll be honest, part of the reason is to create opportunities for the two of us. Su Ruochu snorted lightly, obviously knowing it a long time ago. Suddenly she noticed that Chen Fan was too close to her, and the two of them were whispering almost face to face. Su Ruochu's pretty face turned slightly red. Find a chance this afternoon to ask Li Na what she thinks. Seeing Guishuai coming over with a pack of beer, Su Ruochu quickly moved aside. Don't stop me. You must drink 2 cups with me today. Chen Fan smiled and reached out to take a bottle of beer. I'll only give you this face because you're heartbroken. Guishuai suddenly panicked and looked at Su Ruochu awkwardly. Then he glared at Chen Fan. What nonsense. How could I be heartbroken? Okay, Ruochu is not an outsider. I've already told her. Ask her to help you ask Li Na what she really thinks this afternoon. Real. Upon hearing this, Guishuai stood up suddenly. Raise the can in your hand. Sister-in-law, my lifelong affairs depend entirely on you. I won't say thank you, it's all in the wine. The word sister-in-law made Su Ruochu's face turn red. Seeing that Chen Fan was still smiling smugly, Su Ruochu quietly pinched someone's leg from under the table. Although a little shy, it can be seen that Su Ruochu is in a good mood and not angry. Pour me a glass, too. Chen Fan suspected that he had heard it wrong. You want to drink too? You have to go back to school this afternoon. Su Ruochu said softly, the college entrance examination is over, let's celebrate together. Guishuai immediately applauded and gave a thumbs up. Sister-in-law is so generous. Chen Fan smiled and picked up the can to pour the other person a cup. Just this 1 cup, no more. Come on. Let's raise our glasses and celebrate the end of the college entrance examination together. The future is bright and friendship lives on. The three of them clinked their glasses with laughter. Chen Fan and Guishuai drank it all in 1 gulp, while Su Ruochu drank only half of it. Chen Fan looked at the other person with an exaggerated expression. I didn't realize you could drink. Su Ruochu rolled her eyes charmingly. There are still many things you don't know. Chen Fan smiled and helped pick up a piece of meat. Eat more, my wife is too thin. Su Ruochu felt a little embarrassed that Chen Fan was so cheesy in front of Gu Shuai. After hesitating for a moment, he still asked about his concerns. How did you two do on the exam? Gu Shuai smiled bitterly. Not very good, I don't know how to answer many questions. I think I'll be lucky if I can finish reading 3 books this time. Su Ruochu stared at Chen Fan with a nervous expression. Chen Fan knew what she was worried about, and smiled as he held Su Ruochu's little hand. I played well. This time, no matter where you are, you will never escape from my grasp. Really? Su Ruochu's eyes lit up with joy. Real. Seeing that Chen Fan didn't seem to be lying, Su Ruochu finally relaxed her worried heart. During these 3 days, she was concerned about how Chen Fan would do in the exam. She was even more nervous than she was about her own exam. Now, after hearing Chen Fan's answer in person, Su Ruochu could finally breathe a sigh of relief. Feeling relaxed all over, Su Ruochu gently placed the cup in front of Chen Fan. Pour me another glass. Chapter 25 Score Estimate, 575. The school notified us to arrive at school at 3 p.m. When Chen Fan and the other 2 finished their meal and returned to the classroom, many classmates had already arrived. Some people are taking photos with their good friends. Most of them gathered in groups of 3 or 4 to discuss the answers to the college entrance examination. The math was too difficult this time. I couldn't even finish the last 2 analysis questions. You didn't finish it, I didn't understand the question at all. At least you 2 saw the questions. I didn't have enough time. When I handed in the paper, I didn't even finish the last question. What did you choose for the graphical analysis in the multiple choice question? A. R. Isn't it B? It's over. I really burned it this time. Can you please stop comparing answers? My heart just can't take it anymore. Hey, what do you fill in the 4th fill in the blank question? Su Ruochu had just sat down for a while when the teacher called her to the office. Gu Shuai finally waited for Li Na. The 2 quietly left the classroom and talked about something on the campus. Chen Fan sat alone in a window seat and did not join in the conversations around him. Looking out the window, letting the sunshine shine on my body, I stretched comfortably. The bell for the first class rang. Su Ruochu walked into the classroom with the head teacher. Okay, everyone, be quiet. Wang Chiming knocked on the desk and asked with a smile. How was it? How did everyone do on the test? For a moment, the classroom was filled with wailing. Wang Chiming knocked on the table again. Well, whether you did well or not on the test, it's all in the past. Don't think too much about it. Next, I'll ask the student council to copy the answers to each subject onto the blackboard. Everyone can check and see how many points they can get so that they can have an idea of the schools they will apply to in a few days. Su Ruochu walked up to the podium with some papers, picked up the chalk and started writing the answers. The classroom was silent, and all the students quickly took out their pens and papers. For a moment, the classroom was filled with the sound of students writing down answers. Some smart ones directly found the answer slips they copied down during the exam. Some students were scratching their heads. Oh no, what did I choose for the 3rd multiple choice question? I can't remember. R. The last multiple choice question is C? Didn't everyone choose A? Wow, I want to die. I only got 7 out of 12 math multiple choice questions correct. I only got 5 correct. It's too difficult. It's really too difficult. Chen Fan ignored the discussions around him, holding a pen in his hand and constantly writing and drawing on the notebook. BCDA, DAB, ACD, BC. Fill in the blank, 64. 13. X equals 23. Chen Fan checked the answers quickly. Mathematics is the subject he is least confident about. Except for the last few analytical questions, Chen Fan answered all the other questions with his learning ability in this life. The calculation is finished. The final math score was 112 points. This score is slightly better than Chen Fan expected. After all, this was the result he got when he knew the answers to a few questions. Without time to sigh, Chen Fan immediately went to check the answers for the Chinese language test. Next came the English and liberal arts papers. 10 minutes later, Chen Fan let out a long sigh. Looking at the numbers on the notebook, he murmured softly. 575. Because some of the answers were purely subjective and Chen Fan was not sure, the 575 was Chen Fan's worst estimate. He estimated that the final result would be about 10 points different from 575. At this point, Chen Fan was finally completely relieved. Because he knew that this year's first-tier admission line was 535. My score is already 40 points higher than the first-tier line. The admission score line for Yunhai University, which Su Ruochu is going to apply for, is 553 this year. Even if I subtract 10 points, it would still be 565. Definitely enough to go to Yunhai University. Su Ruochu on the podium copied the answers and walked down. His eyes were fixed on Chen Fan nervously. How about it? She asked cautiously once she was seated. Chen Fan pushed the notebook in front of him over. Su Ruochu's beautiful eyes suddenly widened. The next second, he was so excited that he covered his mouth with his hand. 575. Really? Chen Fan smiled and nodded. How many points did you get? Su Ruochu excitedly picked up the pen and wrote a number on the notebook. 578. Chen Fan smiled. I didn't disappoint you, did I? We can go to the same university this time. Su Ruochu nodded excitedly. Are you sure it's 575? The little girl still doesn't believe in herself. Chen Fan smiled and nodded. I checked it twice. The difference should be less than 10 points. Su Ruochu carefully calculated in his mind and suddenly became excited. That's great, that's great. Seeing that the other party was happier than himself, Chen Fan couldn't help but smile and joked. Now can you tell me which university you plan to apply to? Su Ruochu smiled and said, Yunhai University. Really? Chen Fan immediately pretended to be surprised. 985, I heard Yunhai University is very beautiful. Su Ruochu stared at Chen Fan nervously. Will you apply to Yunhai University? Chen Fan smiled and squeezed the other person's hand. I said, I'll go wherever you go. Not only do I want to apply to Yunhai University, I also want to study the same major as you. After hearing this, Su Ruochu showed a sweet smile on her face. After a few days of worry, I finally relaxed completely. Where some are happy, others are sad. Su Ruochu was immersed in the joy of happiness. The other students in the class all looked sad. Obviously, most students did not perform well in this year's college entrance examination. While the teacher was away, Chen Fan quietly found Guo Shuai. How about it? Guo Shuai curled his lips. 486 points. Chen Fan calculated in his mind. I should be able to get 3 copies. Guo Shuai nodded, almost. Chen Fan was a little surprised. What's wrong with you? You should be jumping for joy after getting a 3rd-tier diploma. Guo Shuai looked annoyed. Li Na rejected me. Chen Fan was stunned. What's going on? Tell me in detail. Guo Shuai scratched his head in frustration. Just now, she called me out and said a lot of nonsense. Finally, she said that the college entrance examination was over and everyone would go to school in various parts of the country. I said I could go to the city where she was studying, but Li Na told me to wake up and be more realistic. She also said that even if she agreed to me now, we would still be in a long-distance relationship and would break up sooner or later. Instead of that, it would be better for both parties to leave a good impression. Chen Fan smiled bitterly and nodded. You are an idealist, she is a realist. But then again, she is much more rational than you. She has a point. Guo Shuai glared at Chen Fan. Which side are you from? Chen Fan smiled, I am telling the truth. Of course, if you don't give up, you can continue to contact her after you go to college. It's not like she will never have anything to do with you again. Maybe in the future I will be slowly moved by your sincerity. Guo Shuai shook his head. Forget it. I never force anything on others. Since she has made up her mind, there is no need to keep pestering her. Once I get to college, I don't believe I won't be able to find a girlfriend. Chen Fan was stunned and gave a thumbs up. Atmosphere. Roll, roll, roll. By the way, what's your estimated score? Although you and Su Ruochu have confirmed your relationship, I'm afraid you'll be in a long-distance relationship soon, right? Guo Shuai looked at Chen Fan with sympathy and comforted him. I guess you're feeling as depressed as I am right now. If you're feeling unhappy, don't hold it in. Let it out. How about I go to the internet cafe with you and play a couple of games of Red Alert later? Chen Fan glanced at the other person lightly. Sorry. My brother scored 575. This time he will go to the same university as my Ruochu. What? Guo Shuai slammed the table, his face full of shock. You, how much did you score? Chapter 26 Father and Son. When Chen Fan returned home in the afternoon, he was surprised to find that his father was also at home. Dad, you didn't go to work today. Mother Li Jinqiu glanced at her husband. Your dad is worried about how you did on the exam. I asked for leave early this afternoon and came back. Chen Fan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. That's not necessary. You'll know when you get off work tonight. Chen Jianye glanced at his son. He pretended to be nonchalant, but still asked with some concern. How did you do on the test? Good. What do you mean okay? Chen Jianye looked at his wife nervously, then looked at his son. Didn't you say that we're going to estimate the scores this afternoon? Chen Fan took off his school uniform and threw it into the bedroom. Yes, the estimate has been completed. How many more points? Can I read 2 books? 3 books is also fine. The old couple's hearts instantly rose to their throats. Chen walked over to sit next to his father, picked up the cup, poured himself a glass of boiled water, and drank it all in one gulp. He raised his hand to wipe his mouth before speaking. I estimate 575. Oh, this score should be acceptable. Chen Jianye nodded, and suddenly froze. He looked at his son in disbelief. How many points? Chen Fan smiled. 575 points, past the first tier line. Swish. Chen Jianye stood up instantly, and for the first time, the usually mature and steady middle-aged man lost his composure. 575 points. Mother, did I hear correctly? My son scored 575 points. Li Jinqiu's eyes had already turned red, and he nodded desperately. You heard it right, my son said he scored 575 points. I've passed the first line. That's great, that's great. Har har, my son got admitted to a top university. Chen Jianye turned around twice in place excitedly and rubbed his hands. Hurry. Mother, go and cook 2 more dishes. No, it's too late. Go out and buy some vegetables. Also, buy 2 pounds of pork head and a bottle of good wine. Chen Fan smiled and joked, there's no need to be so exaggerated, right? Dad, are we going to have a family? Stop talking nonsense. Chen Jianye glared, then burst out laughing. I'm happy today, so have a drink with me tonight. Li Jinqiu also took off her apron with a smile. I'll go buy it right away. In the evening, the family of 3 sat together, with 6 dishes on the table in front of them. Chen Fan could only see such a sumptuous feast during the Chinese New Year. Chen Jianye smiled and took out 2 wine glasses. You will become an adult after the college entrance examination. Have a drink with Dad tonight. Li Jinqiu glared at her husband. Really let him drink it. Chen Jianye chuckled. It's okay, my son is grown up, it's okay for him to drink a little. Chen Fan also smiled and said, Mom, my dad is happy today, I'll drink with him. The 2 men clinked their glasses and Chen Jianye excitedly took a big sip. Chen Fan took a sip. Hurry, eat some food. Li Jinqiu, who was standing by, quickly picked up a piece of pig ear for his son with chopsticks. That night, the family of 3 had a great time and talked a lot. Especially the father Chen Jianye, his face turned red after drinking only 2 glasses, and he talked a lot more than usual. During this period, Li Jinqiu curiously asked his son which university he was planning to apply to. Yunhai University. International trade major in the School of Economics and Management. Chen Fan said it without hesitation. In fact, Chen Fan should have applied to the School of Computer Science, after all, that was his major in his previous life. But in order to study in the same major as Su Ruochu, Chen Fan changed his mind without hesitation. Moreover, based on his experience in his previous life, he probably wouldn't learn anything even if he enrolled in the computer major. The teacher might not know as much as he does. Yunhai University. Is it in the neighboring Yunhai province? Li Jinqiu didn't understand this and asked curiously. Is it very famous? With your score, you should be able to study in the capital, right? As an honest rural woman, Li Jinqiu knew little about these universities. She instinctively felt that only universities in Beijing were truly good universities. Her husband, Chen Jianye, knocked his wine glass on the table and snorted. What do you, a rural woman, know? My son has grown up and has his own opinions. He understands better than us. Li Jinqiu glanced at her husband and said calmly, yes, I don't understand. At least I still have a high school education. Upon hearing this, Chen Jianye immediately wilted. Because he only has a junior high school education and hasn't graduated yet. Seeing his father embarrassed, Chen Fan quickly explained with a smile. Mom, Yunhai University is also one of the top universities in China, and it's a 985 university, so it's very difficult to get into. Another thing is that this school is close to home, in the neighboring province. If I miss you too, I can always take a bus back. Chen Jianye picked up the wine glass and took a sip, then looked at his son seriously. You know more about this kind of thing than either of us, so just make your own decision. Remember, no matter where you go to school in the future, you must study hard and be a decent person. Your parents don't expect you to achieve much in this life, but you must behave uprightly and never lose your conscience. As long as you keep your conscience, your life won't be too bad. Chen Fan nodded. I've made a note of that. Chen Jianye glanced at his son, hesitated for a moment, and finally spoke. Study hard, try to make something of yourself, and get out of this small place like ours. Don't ever be like me, your dad, who has been a coward all his life. Chen Fan's eyes reddened. Dad, I understand. I will definitely live a life of my own. After saying this, he picked up his wine glasses and clinked them with his son. I don't know if it's because he was just reborn, but Chen Fan got drunk that night. I can't quite remember how I got back to bed. Early the next morning, my mother was cooking in the kitchen and my father was weeding in the vegetable garden. Are you up? Li Jinqiu glanced at his son. Go wash your face quickly. No more drinking in the future. Chen Fan and his father looked at each other and smiled. He turned around and went back to their house. After a while, he walked out of the door with a toothbrush in his mouth and squatted on the steps to brush his teeth. Dad, you're not going to work today. I've switched shifts with someone else. I'll go again in the afternoon. Chen Jianye stood up, brushed the dirt off his hands, and looked at his son. When will the results be released? Chen Fan thought about it. It seems to be the 23rd. What about volunteering? Reported in 2 days, on the 12th. Chen Jianye nodded and walked over to wash his hands. Chen Fan thought about it and tried to ask. Mom and Dad, I want to discuss something with you. What is it? Chen Jianye turned his head and looked over while applying soap. Can you give me $5,000? Chen Jianye was stunned. Why do you need so much money? Chen Fan gave the reason he had thought of last night. Summer vacation is coming soon. I want to find something to do. I discussed it with my classmates and signed up for a class together to learn computers. If you study well, you will fall far behind others when you go to university. Li Jinqiu came out of the kitchen holding a spoon. Isn't $5,000 too much? It's almost equal to your father and I's monthly salary. What do you know? Chen Jianye glared at his wife. Short-sighted. My son said this is for future studies. Here are the $5,000 Dad will give you. But. Chen Jianye looked at his son with a serious expression. You have to understand that this $5,000 is not a small amount. Your mother and I worked hard to earn it. You must study hard and don't waste it. Do you understand? Chen Fan's eyes reddened. I see. He felt a little sorry for his parents because he lied. He didn't intend to use the money to learn computers. After breakfast, Chen Fan took the 5,000 yuan in cash given by his mother, rode his bicycle straight to the city. The college entrance examination is over, and now it's time to start promoting the domain name network. Chapter 27. All funds are used for promotion. On the first day after the college entrance examination, Chen Fan did not look for Guoshuai or Su Ruochu. Instead, he went to Honghai Computer School alone. As soon as he entered the door, Zhu Honghai waved excitedly. You've come just in time. Quick! Come and show them. After saying this, he explained to the parents who came over to consult about learning computers. This student Chen just finished the college entrance examination and learned computer science from me. You can take a look at his computer skills. After saying that, he pulled Chen Fan to a computer. Chen Fan looked puzzled. What? Showing what? Zhu Honghai whispered, just show off your blind typing skills. So Chen Fan turned on his computer and created a new text document. In front of several parents and children, he opened the document and started typing blindly with both hands. Crackling. A series of words appeared rapidly, flowing like water. In this era, especially in a small place like Los Angeles, Chen Fan's move was indeed enough to shock everyone. After watching Chen Fan's operation, several parents were indeed shocked. He immediately expressed his desire to send his children to study here. Zhu Honghai was grinning so hard that he could hardly stop smiling, and he led a group of people to his office for a detailed discussion. Chen Fan sat alone in front of the computer and first opened his own domain name network. The traffic has increased a bit in the past few days, reaching more than 2,000 views. The number of registered people finally exceeded 100. Then search for e.com and open it. Because there is no background, Chen Fan does not know the background data of e.com. However, judging from the number of posts, e.com should be inferior to itself for the time being. It seems that Boss Yao has not yet started to prepare for the move. However, Chen Fan would not wait for the other party to make a move. He must take advantage of his current advantage and find a way to widen the gap between the two sides. Chen Fan closed e.com and then opened xinlang.com. In the 2000s, when it comes to traffic, the three major portals were indeed unrivaled. The reason why xinlang.com was finally chosen was because Chen Fan felt that among the three portals, xinlang.com had stronger news attributes. As for why he didn't place advertisements in all three companies at the same time, it was naturally because Chen Fan had no money. All his savings now add up to just over 5,500. 5,000 yuan of it was given by my mother today, and the remaining 500 yuan was given by the beautiful lady who helped me repair my computer here before. There is too little funding, so we have to spend money where it counts. Chen Fan sent an email to the other party using the business cooperation contact information written on the website. The general content is that I want to place an advertisement on xinlang.com and would like to ask for an advertising quotation. The person on the other end responded quickly. Send a QQ number directly to Chen Fan. Chen Fan suddenly realized that he seemed to have no QQ number yet. So I quickly registered a QQ account. I didn't expect it to be a 5-digit QQ number. Log into the QQ account you just registered and add the other party's number. After successfully adding a friend, Chen Fan went straight to the point and asked directly about the promotion fees. The other party asked Chen Fan what product he wanted to promote. Chen Fan briefly mentioned his ideas. Upon hearing that Chen Fan wanted to promote a personal website, the other party quickly gave a series of quotations. Damn! They are stealing money. Seeing the offer sent by the other party, Chen Fan cursed inwardly. Although this price is many times cheaper than in his previous life, it is still not something Chen Fan can afford now. So Chen Fan started to bargain with the other party. The two sides chatted back and forth for almost half an hour. Finally, the final promotion plan was finalized. Chen Fan chose to place 3 advertisements in total on xinlang.com. The first version of the homepage will be released for 1 day, and the secondary functional page will be released for 10 days. So far, the total cost is 5,400 yuan. The other party asked Chen Fan which secondary page he wanted to invest in. Chen Fan thought about it and chose the internet and business sector. Hold on. The other party replied, and about 10 minutes later, an electronic contract was sent over. Chen Fan filled out the form quickly. The contract is in triplicate. Please print it out, sign it, and mail it to us. We will stamp it and mail one to you. You need to pay a deposit of 500 yuan today. In addition, please transfer the remaining balance to this account within 3 working days. If you exceed the time limit, the deposit will not be refunded. Chen Fan said he had no objection and agreed with the other party that the promotion would officially begin the next day after the remittance arrived. At this point, Chen Fan had spent all the more than 5,000 yuan he had in less than an hour. Looking at the QQ chat messages in front of me, Chen Fan suddenly had an idea. Yes. In 2000, QQ was still struggling to find a way to monetize, far from being the giant enterprise it would become a decade later. It is still very easy to register a few good QQ accounts these days. If you stock up on a few 5 or 6-digit QQ numbers, or collect a few lucky numbers, and keep them for a few years, you should be able to sell them for some money. Thinking of this, Chen Fan immediately stood up and went to the front desk to get paper and pen. Next, I started applying for QQ numbers frantically. In the morning, Chen Fan's notebook was filled with strings of QQ numbers. Fortunately, he collected 15 5-digit QQ numbers and 10 6-digit QQ numbers. Among them, there are a few with particularly auspicious numbers, and I think they should be able to sell for some money. Chen Fan carefully put the note into his pocket, said goodbye to Zhu Honghai, and left the computer school alone. After lunch in the afternoon, Chen Fan did not take a nap at home, but rushed to the post office immediately. After waiting at the door until the staff went to work, Chen Fan used the remittance account number given by the staff and transferred all the 5,400 yuan. At the same time, the completed contract was mailed. The next step is to wait for the other party to place an advertisement. July 12. The day to fill in the application form. On this day, Chen Fan met Su Ruochu again. The girl didn't wear a school uniform today, but instead wore a beautiful dress. The ponytail is gone too. Her jet black hair cascaded down like a waterfall and she wore a light blue headband on her head, making her look beautiful and generous. When filling out the application form, Su Ruochu chose the International Trade major at the School of Economics, Trade and Management of Yunhai University. After finishing writing, I secretly looked at Chen Fan. Seeing that Chen Fan hadn't filled it out yet, Su Ruochu couldn't help but look a little nervous. Chen Fan smiled slightly and pushed the application form over. Su Ruochu looked puzzled. Chen Fan said softly, "Please help me write it." Your handwriting is beautiful." Su Ruochu's pretty face suddenly turned red. She certainly understood what Chen Fan meant. It is equivalent to putting the most important destiny of your life into your own hands. "Really, let me write." Su Ruochu raised the corner of her mouth slightly, and without refusing, she picked up the pen and wrote Yunhai University, majoring in international trade. After finishing writing, she pushed it to Chen Fan with a blushing face. The two looked at each other and smiled. At noon, Chen Fan took the initiative to suggest that the four friends sit down in a small restaurant outside the school for the last time. At the dinner table, Li Na, who was lively and open as before, looked a little reserved. However, Guo Shuai seemed to be unaffected at all and still looked heartless. Because it was the last meal, all the glasses in front of the four people were filled with beer. Guo Shuai raised his glass on his own initiative. Look up at Li Na opposite. "I wish you a bright future and hope you find a boyfriend who loves you in college." Li Na felt a little embarrassed and hesitated before picking up the wine glass. "Thanks. I also wish you to find a suitable girlfriend in college." The two clinked glasses. Guo Shuai drank it all in one gulp, while Li Na's eyes were a little red. Seeing this scene, Su Ruochu seemed to be somewhat involved and couldn't help but take the initiative to hold Chen Fan's hand under the table. Chen Fan understood what she meant and smiled at Su Ruochu. "We will never be apart." During this meal, Li Na, who seemed reserved, recovered the fastest, while Guo Shuai, who seemed carefree, drank too much. In the end, Chen Fan helped him back.